Chapter 38:58. The ice demon star was completely engulfed in blood and fire. There were at least dozens of powerful evil forces wreaking havoc on the ice demon star field. They claimed to be searching for the entrance to the ice demon soul palace, but in reality they were burning, killing, and looting. The remaining people of the ice demon sect either escaped or were killed. A powerful force disappeared in the blink of an eye. This was the chaotic devil star field. The destruction of forces happened at any time. In fact, these powerful and evil forces were even fighting each other on the ice demon star. Kill! You're courting death. Get out of the ice demon star. You're the ones courting death. On the ice demon star, fighting continued. Shouts shook the sky, and divine light illuminated the dark, starry sky. What should we do? Ling Yue asked. Wait, we can only wait and act according to the situation. Lu Ming said. There were too many powerful forces gathered in the chaotic devil star field. Some of them were already beyond their ability to deal with. If they rushed in recklessly, only death would await them. They could only act according to the situation. Boom! Suddenly, a violent roar came from the ice demon star. Magma soared into the sky. Some people were fighting fiercely, destroying an area of the ice demon star. Rubble flew everywhere, and magma rushed into the starry sky. Although the ice demon sect had laid down a formation on the ice demon star, it still couldn't withstand the devastating attacks of so many experts. Finally, the ice demon star couldn't take it anymore. Boom! Boom! Large explosions occurred in other areas. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The scene was terrifying. We didn't find the entrance to the ice demon soul palace. Then let's destroy the ice demon star. I don't believe that the entrance to the ice demon soul palace can be hidden anywhere. That's right. Even if it's hidden in the core of the planet, we have to find it. Loud roars came from all over the ice demon star. They were the leaders of the major forces, powerful and terrifying existences. As these experts spoke, the ice demon star trembled even more violently. Previously, it was only the aftershocks of some people fighting that bombarded the ice demon star. Now, many experts took the initiative to attack the ice demon star. The ice demon star was just an ordinary planet. Even if the ice demon sect had laid down a formation, it was useless. It kept crumbling. Boom! Finally, with a deafening explosion, the ice demon star completely exploded. From afar, it looked like a firework. The densely packed sound echoed as they rapidly retreated to avoid the impact of the star explosion. However, the weak creatures that originally lived on the ice demon star had already been reduced to ashes the moment the ice demon star exploded. In that instant, it was unknown just how many creatures fell, the number at least in the billions. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. This battle was too intense. The chaotic devil star field was truly chaotic. In fact, in the primitive universe, most battles wouldn't affect such planets. Most of the time, they would destroy meteorites, barren planets, or resource planets. It was rare to destroy this kind of life planet because there were too many creatures living on it. Destroying it would result in too many deaths. Moreover, on a planet with life, there would usually be a powerful planet array. Some of the aftershocks would be very difficult to extinguish. When some terrifying existences fought, they would restrain themselves or fly into the vast starry skies to fight. This could be considered an unwritten law of the great desolate universe. Of course, there were some extermination battles that couldn't be bothered so much. Destroying a planet with life was common. Of course, some high-level life planets and super life planets were difficult to destroy. After all, they were very stable. Not to mention the mother planet. For example, the mother planet of the dragon race was still immortal after experiencing the extermination of the dragon race. Slowly, the ice demon star exploded into rubble and flew into the vast starry skies. However, a stone door appeared at the location of the ice demon star. The stone door was very tall, at least 10,000 feet tall, and floated in the starry skies. Many people were flabbergasted and then overjoyed. The entrance to the Ice Demon's Soul Palace. This was most likely the entrance to the Ice Demon's Soul Palace. It was actually a stone door that was hidden in the core of the Ice Demon Star. Just now, the Ice Demon Star had been destroyed, and this stone door had appeared. Lu Ming, Ling Yue, and Xiao Wuji were also stunned. This scene was also beyond their expectations. If they came alone, it would not be easy to find. First, how to hide the Ice Demon's sect's attention. Second, unless they searched the entire surface of the Ice Demon sect, they might not think of going to the core of the Ice Demon Star to search. That would definitely waste a lot of time. Even though they did not know who had leaked the news, it would save them a lot of time. Open it. Swish, swish, swish. In the blink of an eye, at least 100 silhouettes rushed towards the stone door. Boom, boom, boom. These people bombarded the stone door, but the stone door shook violently and showed no signs of opening. It was as steady as Mount Tai. Attack from the other side. Someone appeared behind the stone door. Actually, the two sides of the stone door looked the same. They looked the same. Boom, boom, boom. These people attacked from the back, but it was useless. They still could not open it. Get out of the way. Someone shouted loudly, stepping out. That person's chi was extremely terrifying. His chi was like smoke, piercing through the starry skies. It's the leader of the Demon Alligator clan. Someone cried out in alarm, recognizing this person. It was a tall and sturdy old man. He was very famous in the chaotic Demon Star area. He was the leader of a terrifying group and had the strength of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. The 7th Godly Emperor layer was already at the top of the chaotic Demon Star area. There were not many people like that in the entire chaotic Demon Star area. Haha, Demon Alligator. Since you're here, I'll also join in the fun. Someone laughed and a silhouette appeared. That person was surrounded by demonic fog and it was impossible to see his face clearly. However, his chi was extremely terrifying. He wasn't any weaker than the leader of the Demon Alligator clan. After that, 7 or 8 people appeared. Their chi was terrifying. The weakest of those people had the strength of the 6th Godly Emperor layer. It could be said that the most terrifying group of people in the chaotic Demon Star area had arrived. Bing Xian's Life Soul Palace is destined to belong to the Blood Skull Pirate Group. A cold and tyrannical voice sounded. Then, ripples appeared in the void. A large group of people suddenly appeared in the void. Those people's chi was terrifying, especially the leader of the group. He was the leader of the Demon Alligator clan and had the strength of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. It's the Blood Skull Pirate Group. The faces of the people of the chaotic devil starfield darkened and became extremely solemn. The Blood Skull Pirate Group was terrifyingly strong. They were spread all over the universe. The chaotic Demon Star area also had a branch of the Blood Skull Pirate Group. Those people were the strongest cultivators of the Blood Skull Pirate Group in the chaotic Demon Star area. The Blood Skull Pirate Group again. In the distance, Lu Ming was speechless. Why did he have to meet the Blood Skull Pirate Group everywhere? Chapter 3859. Since he had killed the young master of the Blood Skull Pirates, wherever he went, he would run into people from the Blood Skull Pirates. He also had that strange, cursing strength on his body. If he got too close to the Blood Skull Pirates, they would sense his presence. He had already searched his body, but he hadn't found the cursing strength. He didn't know where it was hidden. It seemed like he had to find an opportunity to search his body from head to toe. The leader of the Blood Skull Pirates was a cultivator of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. He stepped forwards and walked towards the stone door. Let's join hands and open the door. When we get to the Xian Ice Life Palace, we'll fight for the treasures, said the leader of the Demon Crocodile clan. Join hands? Fight for the treasures? You think you're qualified? I'm telling you, piss off. The Xian Ice Life Palace belongs to the Blood Skull Pirates, shouted the cultivator of the 7th godly emperor layer from the Blood Skull Pirates. What? You want to keep it for yourself? Many people's expressions changed, and some people shouted angrily. It seems like you're not stupid. Piss off, said the strong cultivator of the Blood Skull Pirates, smiling coldly. Hee hee, the Blood Skull Pirates are indeed strong, but in the chaotic Demon Star area you're just a branch. You think you can threaten all of us? Ridiculous, said the leader of the Demon Crocodile clan. Indeed. Besides, will the strong cultivators of the Blood Skull Pirates dare come here? If they do, I don't mind spreading the news. There are many strong clans and clans in the chaotic universe who want to destroy the Blood Skull Pirates, said another strong cultivator, smiling coldly. The strong cultivators of the chaotic Demon Star area were all cruel and ruthless. How could they be easily threatened? If the Blood Skull Pirates dared threaten them, they would threaten them back. The Blood Skull Pirates were indeed strong, but the strong cultivators of the Blood Skull Pirates headquarters wouldn't dare come to the chaotic Demon Star area. If they did, they would spread the news, and many clans and clans would try to destroy the Blood Skull Pirates. The Blood Skull Pirates were notorious. They had offended many strong clans, and many clans and clans wanted to destroy them. They were scattered all the time, so it was difficult to find their headquarters. Humph! The strong cultivator of the 7th godly emperor layer grunted coldly, but he didn't say anything. Indeed, the experts of the Blood Skull Pirate Gang didn't dare to come here, because this place was close to the territory of the devils. If the devils sent a few experts here, the Blood Skull Pirate Gang would be wiped out. Why don't you join forces? If you don't want to, then so be it, the patriarch of the Demon Crocodile clan said. Then, with a long roar, he transformed into a demon crocodile that was tens of thousands of meters long. His body was covered with pitch-black scales, and his demon chi soared into the sky. Whoosh! His tail lashed out at the stone door like a bolt of lightning. Its power was terrifying, and the entire starry sky trembled. Boom, boom, boom! The other cultivators of the 6th and 7th godly emperor layers also attacked at the same time. Terrifying attacks bombarded the stone gate. With so many experts attacking together, the power was shocking. It could destroy a large area of the starry sky and destroy countless planets. In the end, these attacks all landed on the stone door. However, the stone door only shook and showed no signs of opening. Again, shouted the leader of the Demon Alligator clan. He continued attacking. The others also attacked. This time, even the strongest cultivators of the Blood Skull Pirate Gang attacked, but it was useless. The stone door was as stable as Mount Tai. It didn't move at all. The strong cultivators attacked continuously, but after a while, they still couldn't break it. Damn it! Shouted some people furiously. In the end, they stopped attacking. Fuck! Could it be that the stone door can't be broken? Is there a deployment spell on it? Shouted some people furiously. However, after studying it for a while, they didn't have a clue. In the distance, Lu Ming and the others were watching. At that moment, Xiao Wuji looked around and suddenly flew towards the stone door. He was extremely fast. By the time Lu Ming and Ling Yu Wei came back to their senses, Xiao Wuji had already flown far away. Fuck! What does he want to do? Lu Ming and Ling Yu Wei were astonished. Lu Ming wanted to chase after him, but he had misgivings. The strong cultivators of the Blood Skull Pirate Gang were guarding there. If he chased after him, he would most likely be discovered by the Blood Skull Pirate Gang. Seeing that Lu Ming didn't chase after him, Ling Yu Wei also didn't follow him. She was no match for Xiao Wuji alone. With this delay, Xiao Wuji had already flown far away and approached the stone door. No one stopped Xiao Wuji. In fact, there were many people around the stone door. Many of them were studying it, and the strong cultivators couldn't be bothered. After all, the stone door couldn't be opened. Soon, Xiao Wuji arrived at the stone door. At that moment, he took out the snow-white seal. As soon as the seal was taken out, it immediately emitted a bright light. Countless runes shone and emitted a powerful fluctuation. Then the seal flew out and grew rapidly. Buzz! The stone door also began to vibrate as if it was resonating with the seal. This scene attracted everyone's attention. Many strong cultivators looked at Xiao Wuji, and their eyes lit up. Suddenly, the large seal flew toward the stone gate. It actually flew directly into the stone gate and disappeared. Gotcha! The stone door shook and then opened to both sides. The stone door was about to open. Many people's eyes lit up. I didn't expect that seal to be the key to opening the stone door. Xiao Wuji never mentioned it to us. Ling Yuwei gritted her teeth. I'm afraid that Xiao Wuji was the one who leaked the news. I just don't know why he leaked the news and attracted so many experts. Lu Ming said, it was obvious that they had all been tricked by Xiao Wuji. The one who leaked the news was definitely Xiao Wuji. Rumble. After a while, the stone door opened completely. Hoo-hoo! As soon as the stone door opened, a cold wind blew out. Through the stone door, one could clearly see that there was a snow-white world inside. It was a strange feeling. The stone door floated in the air. Both sides were empty, but once the stone door opened, it led to an unfamiliar world. This was a spatial door. Swish! Xiao Wuji reacted quickly. As soon as the stone door opened, he rushed into it and disappeared. Charge in! Charge! The others also reacted and rushed towards the stone door. A few top experts were the fastest. In a flash, they rushed into the stone door. After that, the others also rushed into the stone door. In less than a minute, everyone in the starry sky had rushed into the starry sky and disappeared. Gotcha! After everyone rushed into the stone gate actually started to slowly close. Not good. Let's go in too. Lu Ming and Ling Yuwei's expressions changed. They rushed towards the stone door as fast as they could. Chapter 3860. Lu Ming and Ling Yuwei were very fast. They flew through the air and arrived at the stone door in the blink of an eye. Finally, before the stone door closed, they rushed into the stone door. When the two of them rushed through the stone door, it closed with a gotcha sound. Then, it quickly became illusory and transparent. In the end, it completely disappeared from the void, as if it had never appeared. Whoosh, 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 the cold wind whistled. Bone-chilling! After Lu Ming and Ling Yuwei rushed through the stone door, they arrived at a world of ice and snow. As far as the eye could see, it was a vast expanse of white that stretched as far as the eye could see. Is the ice profound life Soul Hall a world of ice and snow? Lu Ming whispered. Swish! Suddenly, a few figures flew past in the distance. They were people from the Devil Chaos Star region. Let's go take a look. Lu Ming said. After that, the two of them followed behind the few people from before and flew in that direction. After crossing several snow-covered mountain ranges, they saw a few palaces built on top of a mountain peak. Boom! Intense, rumbling sounds came from those palaces. Demonic light shot into the sky as a few figures rushed out and engaged in an intense battle. Soon after, someone screamed miserably and was killed here. Blood dyed the snow red. The remaining people were still fighting fiercely. Lu Ming and Ling Yuwei looked at each other and flew over. This was because these people's cultivations weren't very high. They were all at the first level of the divine Emperor realm. As soon as Lu Ming and Ling Yuwei approached, they were discovered by the few people who were fighting. Humph! A mere divine lord wants to join in the fun. You're courting death. One of the sturdy men wearing a black robe with a tiger embroidered on it coldly shouted. With a shake of his demonic blade, 2 rays of blade light slashed towards Lu Ming. This person was very strong. Amongst the few people in the chaotic battle, his battle strength was the highest and also the most tyrannical. The saber light was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it had arrived in front of Lu Ming and Ling Yue. Humph! Ling Yue snorted coldly. With a wave of her hand, 2 arrows shot out, blocking the 2 saber beams. The burly man with the tiger embroidered on his robe was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Ling Yue to be so strong that she could block his attack. He was about to continue attacking, but Ling Yue didn't give him the chance. Ling Yue condensed a longbow in her hand. She pulled the bowstring, and an arrow flew out, flying towards the burly man whose robe was embroidered with a fierce tiger. The speed of the arrow was astonishing. It pierced through the void like a falling meteor. Not good. The burly man's expression changed drastically as he felt the terrifying power of this arrow. As he frantically retreated, the demonic path in his hand continuously slashed out. However, it was useless. A mere first layer of the divine Emperor realm couldn't block a single attack from Ling Yue. Puff! As the arrow flew past, the burly man with a tiger embroidered on his robe was pierced between his eyebrows, and he died on the spot. Hiss! When the remaining people looked at Ling Yue, their eyes were filled with fear. They never thought that Ling Yue, a quasi-emperor, would have such terrifying battle prowess. She killed a powerful divine emperor in one move. They were secretly afraid. Fortunately, they weren't the ones who attacked just now. Otherwise, they would have been the ones to die. The remaining people stopped their chaotic battle at the same time and looked at Ling Yue cautiously. All of you scram! Ling Yue coldly shouted, very domineering. Little girl, we were the ones who discovered this place. Isn't it too overbearing for you to tell us to scram now? Someone spoke up, his eyes flashing with a cunning light. These people were all experts of the Devil Chaos Star Field. To be able to survive in the Devil Chaos Star Field and obtain a good harvest, they were all extremely daring, scheming, and ruthless people. He wouldn't be easily scared away by Ling Yue. If you don't scram, then I'll have to personally make you scram. Ling Yue said coldly as she stepped forward. The bow in her hand emitted a resplendent light. However, those people suddenly moved. Their figures dispersed, constantly changing their positions in the air. They had just sent a sound transmission and decided to join hands. Previously, they were still enemies and were fighting each other. However, facing Ling Yue, this common enemy, they chose to join hands. Humph, don't think that you can dodge my bow and arrow just like that. Ling Yue snorted coldly, and another arrow flew out. Her arrows could lock onto her opponent. No matter how the opponent dodged, they would be able to dodge Ling Yue's arrows. This is bad. That person was so shocked that his soul almost left his body. In the next moment, he was pierced by the arrow. However, the moment Ling Yue shot out the arrow, the eyes of 2 experts from the Devil Chaos Star Field lit up and flashed with cold killing intent. Catch that brat! These 2 experts pounced towards Lu Ming at the same time. Lu Ming was only at the 8th level of the Divine Lord Realm, so he was definitely not that strong. As long as they took down Lu Ming, they would be able to use Lu Ming to threaten Ling Yue. In the blink of an eye, they had thought of this move. They could be said to be cunning. Unfortunately, they had underestimated Lu Ming. You think I'm a soft persimmon? The corner of Lu Ming's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a cold smile. His arms trembled, his strength erupted, and he suddenly threw out a few punches. Boom! Boom! 2 terrifying fist forces pierced through the void, crushing towards the 2 experts of the chaotic Devil Starfield. Ah! Damn it, how is this possible? The 2 experts from the chaotic Devil Star Field screamed in disbelief. Their voices were filled with fear. The moment Lu Ming made his move, they could feel that Lu Ming's battle prowess was simply terrifying. How could an 8th level divine lord have such horrifying strength? Then their bodies were annihilated by the fist force and they died. The last remaining person was from the chaotic Devil Starfield. Seeing this scene, he was nearly scared out of his wits. Evildoers, evildoers. Two evildoers run. He roared in his heart as he frantically retreated. However, how could Ling Yue let him escape? An arrow flew past and took care of this person. In this area, only Lu Ming and Ling Yue were left. The two of them stepped out and flew toward the palace on top of the snowy mountain. The palace had been maintained in perfect condition. The doors to the palace were all open. However, it was completely silent without the slightest sound. The two of them walked into the palace and discovered that everything inside was complete. Tables, chairs, and so on, everything was available. Moreover, it could be seen that they were all using very high-grade materials. However, when the two of them carefully sensed it, they discovered that these materials had already lost all their spirituality and had become trash. Thinking about it, the life, spirit, heavenly court was a powerful force in the early days of the Heavenly Palace era. It was already very far away from the present. Unless it was an extremely high-level divine weapon and had a seal, it would be very difficult to preserve it completely. It was normal for its spirituality to be lost. The two of them scanned the area and then walked towards a corridor behind the hall. Soon, they arrived at a backyard. However, when they arrived here, Lu Ming and Ling Yue's hearts trembled violently. This was because there were some living beings in the backyard. There were all kinds of races, but these living beings had all turned into dried corpses. Yes, they were like skeletons. It was as if their essence, energy, and spirit had been sucked away. Book Guest Reading Website. Chapter 3861. All of the living beings, about 100 of them, had their essence, energy, and spirit sucked out and turned into dried corpses. Obviously, these people were the residents of this palace. These dried corpses were sealed in ice, which was why they didn't decay. However, Lu Ming and Ling Yue carefully examined them and discovered that these people didn't have the slightest injuries. There were no signs of fighting at the scene. It was as if these creatures had their essence, energy, and spirit sucked away by a terrifying existence in an instant. The two of them observed for a moment, but didn't find anything. They continued to walk inside and discovered some rooms. When they walked into the room, their pupils shrank again. In the room, there was a humanoid creature sitting at the table drinking tea. He still maintained the posture of drinking tea, but his body had already turned into a dried corpse. It was the same as the people in the backyard. Following that, they looked at several rooms in a row and saw similar problems. It was as if these creatures had unknowingly had their essence, energy, and spirit sucked away. What happened back then? Could it be that a terrifying existence suddenly descended and sucked away the essence, energy, and spirit of these creatures? The two of them guessed. This was because there were no signs of fighting in this palace. Everything was complete. If it was said that the experts of the Heavenly Palace had killed their way to the door and exterminated the people of the Heavenly Court, how could they be so complete? There should be traces of fighting. Unless the person who attacked was too strong, so strong that no one had the slightest ability to resist. They couldn't figure it out. The two of them couldn't figure it out, so they could only suppress the doubts in their hearts and continue to investigate. However, after walking around for a long time, he didn't find anything. Although the divine pills, divine medicines, and refining materials had all been preserved here and hadn't been taken away by anyone, too much time had passed. They had lost all their spirituality and were no longer of any use. Even the storage rings of the living beings had collapsed due to the passage of time. This palace shouldn't be much in the Ice Profound Life Soul Palace. It's relatively low level and doesn't have any high-level treasures. All the materials aren't sealed either. If it's a high-level place and some treasures are sealed, they should be able to be preserved perfectly. Ling Yue said. He seemed to be comforting himself. If it was like this, wouldn't they have made a wasted trip? The two of them left this place and continued forward in one direction. However, after flying for some distance, Lu Ming frowned and looked in a certain direction. In the distant sky, there were two big men coldly looking at Lu Ming and Ling Yue. When they saw that Lu Ming had discovered them, their figures flashed and they left. "Who is it?" Ling Yue said. "I don't know, but I'm sure he's up to no good. Let's be careful." Lu Ming said. Immediately, the two of them changed directions and flew in another direction. However, not long after, Lu Ming felt that he was being followed again. He glanced in a direction and saw a few figures looking at him from afar. After being discovered by Lu Ming, these people left in a flash. "Are they from the Blood Skull Pirates?" Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and his face turned solemn. This was very likely. After all, the forces in the Devil Chaos Star field didn't know him. Only the Blood Skull Pirates had a grudge against him. Moreover, he had killed the young master of the Blood Skull Pirates, and his body was entangled with a wisp of curse power. The Blood Skull Pirates could sense it. Could it be that the Blood Skull Pirates had discovered him? But because of their small number, they didn't dare to make a move and were waiting for the experts of the Blood Skull Pirates to come? At the thought of this, Lu Ming's heart trembled. Not good, we're being watched. We have to get rid of these people, quickly. Lu Ming said, "Let's go." Ling Yue said. Immediately, the two of them kept changing their positions and even used some camouflage. An hour later, suddenly buzz, 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 the void shook. The space in front of Lu Ming and the others suddenly trembled, and a large group of figures suddenly appeared. At least 100 people blocked Lu Ming and the others' path. Blood Skull Pirates! Lu Ming's face changed. As Nie Tian had expected, these people were from the Blood Skull Pirates. The leader was a burly man with a face full of curly hair. He was the 7th layer Divine Emperor Realm expert of the Blood Skull Pirates. In addition, there were several 6th layer Divine Emperor Realm experts, all of whom were extremely terrifying. He had really been discovered by the Blood Skull Pirates. The bearded man's eyes were like two sharp swords, piercing towards Lu Ming, filled with a tyrannical aura. "Brat, it seems like you're the one who killed the young master of my Blood Skull Pirates. How dare you show up here?" "Good, very good." The tyrannical aura in the bearded man's eyes became even stronger. The terrifying aura made the atmosphere between heaven and earth extremely oppressive. "Go, you go first." Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Ling Yue. In the face of so many experts, even if Ling Yue stayed, she wouldn't be of much use. It was better to let Ling Yue leave first. "Let's go together," Ling Yue said. The two of them retreated at the same time, quickly flying backward. "You still want to leave? Stay." A few experts of the Blood Skull Pirates rushed towards Lu Ming and Ling Yue. From afar, they condensed a few big hands and grabbed towards Lu Ming and Ling Yue. Of course, these people were not the strongest. Lu Ming and Ling Yue were not quasi-emperors yet. They didn't think that they needed to send out people of the 6th or 7th layer Divine Emperor Realm. In fact, the 3 people who attacked were all of the 3rd layer Divine Emperor Realm. In their opinion, 3rd layer Divine Emperor Realm cultivation was enough. Spirit Arrow. A towering tree appeared behind Ling Yue. A majestic green qi flowed into her body. Her body emitted a dazzling light, and a few dazzling arrows soared into the sky. Boom! 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 The arrows and the huge hands collided, and a violent explosion erupted. Ling Yue's face turned pale. She quickly retreated and spat out a mouthful of blood. Bang! Lu Ming stepped forward. Qiu Qiu had already turned into armor, covering his body. He was holding a silver spear in his hand. The spear shook and stabbed out a few times. 3 moonlight spear lights pierced through the void, stabbing towards the 3 experts of the Blood Skull Pirates. It was extremely fast, like the light of the moon, unfathomable. Not good. The 3 3rd layer Divine Emperor Realm experts of the Blood Skull Pirates paled. They felt the terror of the spear and wanted to retreat, but it was too late. In fact, when they attacked Lu Ming and Ling Yue, they didn't even think of retreating. Did they need to retreat when they were just quasi-emperors and eighth-layer divine emperors? It was too late to regret now. "You dare!" the bearded man roared. Puff! Puff! The moonlight spear flashed, and the 3/3-layer divine emperor realm experts of the Blood Skull Pirates died. Damn it, this brat! The Blood Skull Pirates were shocked. They roared at the same time and attacked Lu Ming and Ling Yue. This time, the truly terrifying existence made a move. Chapter 3862. This time, the Bloodskull Pirates had sent out some formidable experts. Several cultivators of the 6th Godly Emperor realm attacked Lu Ming and Ling Yue. Their terrifying attacks covered the sky and covered the sun, heading toward Lu Ming and Ling Yue. A cultivator of the 6th Godly Emperor layer was terrifying. He could destroy the starry sky, not to mention 8th-level divine lords and quasi-emperors. Even divine emperors would be killed in large numbers. Lu Ming and Ling Yue's expressions were extremely grave. Each of these existences was equivalent to the previous sect master of the Linghing sect. Elven Royal Bow. Ling Yue directly took out the Elven King's bow that was stained with blood, and all the power in her body poured into the Elven King's bow. With a swoosh, a terrifying arrow flew out, as if it came from the Elven King from countless years ago. That arrow was terrifyingly powerful. A cultivator of the 6th Godly Emperor layer of the Blood Skull Pirate group's expression changed drastically. He raised his hands, and 2 pitch-black skeletal hands moved towards the arrow. He wanted to grab it. The 2 attacks collided in an instant. Boom! A heaven-shaking explosion rang out as the 2 of them reached a stalemate. However, the stalemate only lasted for a few breaths of time before the pitch-black skeletal hand was pierced through. Then the arrow flew through the air and shot towards the Blood Skull Pirate. Ah! The blood skeleton let out a blood-curdling screech as its body was pierced through. It was sent flying backward while coughing up blood. It was severely injured. That person's eyes were filled with deep fear. Shao Chun was only a quasi-emperor, yet he was able to severely injure him with 1 arrow and even make him feel the threat of death. One could imagine the shock in his heart. The other experts who were charging towards Lu Ming and Ling Yue were also shocked. It's that blood-stained bow. However, with her cultivation, it must be very difficult for her to use such a weapon. That's right. I don't believe that he can use it a second time. Let's kill him in one go. The remaining 2 cultivators of the 6th Godly Emperor layer immediately realized what was going on. Their eyes were sharp. Instead of retreating, they pounced on Lu Ming and Ling Yue at an even faster speed. Their terrifying attacks emitted even more shocking waves of energy. Hoo-hoo! At this time, a bead appeared in Lu Ming's hand. It was the Gale Pearl. Lu Ming used the Great Divine Wind technique to draw out a power from the Gale Pearl. That strength turned into a hurricane and swept the 2 cultivators of the 6th Godly Emperor layer of the Blood Skull Pirate group into it. The terrifying gale erupted with a terrifying cutting power, as well as a terrifying high temperature, crazily attacking the 2 experts. Sizzle, a strange voice spread throughout the entire area, accompanied by the angry shouts of the 2 experts. In the next moment, the 2 figures retreated rapidly, looking at Lu Ming in shock and anger. Numerous wounds had appeared on their bodies. It was a horrifying sight. Even with their cultivation, they were still injured by the energy inside the Gale Pearl. The 3 cultivators of the 6th Godly Emperor layer of the Blood Skull Pirate group had been injured by Lu Ming and Ling Yue. If other people had seen this, their jaws would have dropped. Go! Lu Ming took advantage of this opportunity to tell Ling Yue telepathically. The 2 of them turned into 2 streaks of light and retreated rapidly. The cultivators of the 6th Godly Emperor layer were too strong. Even if the 2 of them used their full strength, they still couldn't kill their opponents. They could only injure them. If their opponents continued attacking, they would probably threaten them. It was better to leave. Damn it! Quick, attack together. Keep them here. The burly man from the Blood-Skull Pirates roared furiously. His raging and ice-cold killing intent seemed to be able to freeze the void. The bearded man hadn't attacked before because he thought that he didn't need to do anything to deal with Lu Ming and Ling Yue. There were 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer there. He would never have thought that 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer would be injured. At this time, he had no choice but to attack himself. Boom! A pitch-black skeleton claw appeared. It was incomparably huge. It broke the air and grabbed Lu Ming and Ling Yue. How terrifying! A cultivator of the 7th godly emperor layer was 10 times more terrifying than 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer. The pitch-black skeletal claws directly grabbed the gale that Lu Ming had drawn out. A terrifying roar sounded. These strong winds were directly pierced through and collapsed. Although a portion of the black claw's strength had been weakened, it still grabbed towards Lu Ming and Ling Yue. The claw hadn't arrived yet, but Lu Ming and Ling Yue sensed a terrifying danger. Their hair stood on end. If they were caught this time, the only thing that awaited them would be death. Let's go all out. Ling Yue looked ruthless. She continued picking up the elven royal bow. Her strength kept pouring into the elven royal bow, and an arrow condensed. She couldn't just give up. She had to fight with all her might. Unfortunately, Ling Yue's strength was too low, and the elven royal bow with blood was too high. Shooting an arrow was already Ling Yue's limit. Therefore, when she wanted to pull the second arrow, her delicate body trembled, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was as pale as snow. The arrow that had just been condensed halfway also collapsed and disappeared. Explode for me. Lu Ming shouted loudly, pulling the strong wind from the great divine wind technique to the extreme. Another terrifying gale swept out from the zephyr bead in his hand, sweeping towards the bearded man. Boom! The bearded man was like a divine mountain. His body carried a tyrannical aura. Using the black skeleton claw to open a path, he rushed past and defeated the powerful gale. Lu Ming's great divine wind technique was still lacking. He couldn't trigger a stronger gale from the zephyr bead, and couldn't cause destructive damage to the bearded man. Breaking through the gale, the bearded man's figure quickly approached Lu Ming and Ling Yue. It's really shocking that 2 juniors can force me to personally take action. However, you're still a bit inexperienced. Now, take the initiative to hand over the treasures in your hands, and I can leave you with an intact corpse, the bearded man said coldly. His eyes were fixed on the zephyr bead in Lu Ming's hand and the elven royal bow in Ling Yue's hand, revealing a scorching and greedy light. These 2 treasures made him incomparably passionate. Lu Ming and Ling Yue were only at the 8th level of the Divine Lord Realm and the Quasi-Emperor Realm. If they could unleash such power, then how much power could they unleash in his hands? What should we do? At this moment, Lu Ming and Ling Yue's thoughts raced as they thought of countermeasures. The 2 of them were the kind of people who wouldn't give up easily. Even in the face of a desperate situation, the 2 of them wouldn't give up easily. As long as there was a sliver of a chance, they would give it their all. However, at this moment, the other experts of the Blood-Skull Pirates also surrounded them, including the 3 6th-level Divine Emperor Realm existences. The 2 of them were in a fatal crisis. Chapter 3863. Go, you go first. At this time, Lu Ming sent a sound transmission to Ling Yue. Lu Ming thought of a countermeasure, and that was the purple copper coffin. This was the only trump card that Lu Ming could use right now. However, every time he used the purple copper coffin, Lu Ming would tremble in fear. He didn't know what unexpected things would happen. Therefore, before using the purple copper coffin, it was best to let Ling Yue leave first to prevent anything unexpected from happening. Let me go first. Then you, Ling Yue was startled. Don't worry, once you leave, I have a way to leave." Lu Ming said. Ling Yuwei's eyes flickered. She guessed that Lu Ming might have some terrifying trump card that he couldn't use in front of her. "All right, I'll go first. Be careful." In the end, Ling Yuwei nodded and turned into a green ray of light, quickly retreating. "You want to leave? Stay." The bearded man shouted loudly. A terrifying aura erupted and a powerful pressure enveloped the entire space. The entire space seemed to have turned solid, causing Ling Yuwei's speed to drop drastically. At the same time, the bearded man was about to attack Ling Yuwei. At this moment, the purple copper coffin appeared in Lu Ming's hands. "Kacha!" Lu Ming suddenly pushed the purple copper coffin. The purple copper coffin made a kacha sound and opened a crack. Immediately, an incomparably terrifying aura spread out. When the bearded man felt this aura, his entire body immediately tensed up. He let out a strange cry of fear and retreated backwards like a mouse meeting a cat. "What is this?" The bearded man stared at the purple copper coffin in Lu Ming's hands in fear. His eyes were filled with fear. Just now he seemed to have felt an incomparably terrifying existence staring at him from within the purple copper coffin. It was as if he was an ant in front of such an existence and could be blown to death with a single breath. Therefore, he subconsciously retreated backwards. And with this delay, Ling Yuwei had long since disappeared without a trace. Shua! Lu Ming carried the purple copper coffin and also chose a direction to fly in. Strange, there is no reaction from the purple copper coffin. While flying, Lu Ming was surprised. In the past, every time he opened the purple copper coffin, there would be a powerful force that would destroy his enemies. However, this time, other than the terrifying aura, there was no attack from the purple copper coffin. At that moment, the burly man and the other members of the Blood Skull Pirates also noticed the anomaly. No movement. The bearded man was doubtful. Only the aura was being emitted, and there was no other movement. Could it be fake? Was all of this a smokescreen? "Chase him! Don't let him escape!" The curly-bearded man gave the order and rushed out, chasing after Lu Ming. The others also chased after Lu Ming. After all, Lu Ming's cultivation base was only at the 8th level of the Divine Lord Realm. In terms of speed, he was far inferior to the Blood Skull Pirates. Soon, the distance between the two sides was shortened. However, none of the Blood Skull Pirates dared to get too close to Lu Ming. This was because they were afraid of the purple copper coffin. A moment ago, the aura being emitted from the purple copper coffin was too terrifying. It made them tremble with fear, and they were afraid that there would be a terrifying attack. Just like that, Lu Ming quickly flew away, and the Blood Skull Pirates chased after him. Before they knew it, they had already flown a long distance. Humph, it's been so long. Is it really an illusion? The bearded man revealed a look of bewilderment. "You go and check it out." The bearded man looked at an old man in linen clothes and ordered. The old man in linen clothes' expression changed drastically. The bearded man didn't dare to go up himself, but he had ordered him to. It was obvious that he wanted him to go first. If there was any danger, he would be the one to die, not the bearded man. He didn't want to, but he had to obey the bearded man's order. In the Blood Skull Pirates, the hierarchy was very strict. If a superior gave an order, the superior could kill the subordinate if he didn't obey. Even though he had the cultivation base of the 5th godly emperor layer, he would be killed instantly by the bearded man who had the cultivation base of the 7th godly emperor layer. "You don't want to go?" The bearded man's eyes were filled with killing intent. I'll go," said the old man in linen clothes hastily. Then he rushed towards Lu Ming. "Little boy, go to hell!" shouted the old man in linen clothes ferociously. He quickly flew towards Lu Ming. Of course, he was very careful. He had at least 10 layers of defense around himself. Even though he was shouting loudly, he was actually very careful. He didn't dare to get close to Lu Ming at all. Instead, he slowly closed the distance between him and Lu Ming. Suddenly, another powerful aura erupted from the purple copper coffin. "Ah!" shouted the old man in linen clothes. He jumped up like a frightened rabbit and quickly retreated. His face was pale and his heart was still pounding. However, this time, there was only qi coming from the purple copper coffin. Apart from that, there was no other movement. There's still no reaction. It seems like the purple copper coffin will react to anything. I can't rely on the purple copper coffin too much in the future, thought Lu Ming. He didn't slow down at all and continued flying. "What a piece of trash!" scolded the bearded man as he glanced coldly at the old man in linen clothes. However, he didn't dare to get close to him. "Damn it! What's in that copper coffin?" roared the bearded man in his heart. However, he wasn't willing to leave just like that. Not to mention the treasures in Lu Ming's hands. Just the fact that Lu Ming was the one who had killed the young master of the Blood Skull Pirates was enough for him to not let him go. Otherwise, if the leader of the Blood Skull Pirates found out that he had let Lu Ming go, he would end up in a miserable state. Therefore, the burly man with the curly beard and his men followed closely behind Lu Ming. Just like that, another 2 hours passed. It's been so long, but there's still no reaction. This kid is probably bluffing. He's probably trying to confuse me, thought the bearded man in his heart. The look of brutality in his eyes grew stronger and stronger. He was considering whether he should take the risk and attack. "I can't let this go on. I won't be able to fool him for long. I have to find a way to escape." Lu Ming's mind raced. If this went on, the old man would definitely take the risk and attack him. If the copper coffin didn't unleash its might, he definitely wouldn't be a match for the old man by himself. Only death would await him. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly flickered. There was a snowy mountain in front of him. Gazing into the distance, he could only see a vast expanse of whiteness. Even though he was so far away, he could still feel a terrifying coldness filling the air. Even with Lu Ming's current physical strength, he felt as if his blood was about to freeze. Only by unleashing his forbidden power was he able to ward off the coldness. Such a terrifying coldness. If it's already so terrifying from such a distance, it must be even more terrifying in the depths of the snowy mountain. Perhaps I can use this opportunity to shake off the Blood Skull Pirates. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Chapter 3864. When Lu Ming saw that terrifying snowy mountain, he wasn't scared at all. On the contrary, he was delighted. He flew towards the snowy mountain at an even faster speed. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Once he flew into the range of the snow mountain, he immediately felt a gust of terrifying, cold wind blowing toward him. A layer of frost immediately condensed on his body. Lu Ming covered his entire body with the taboo power and barely managed to block the chill of the frost. Only a monstrous cultivator like Lu Ming could withstand such a terrifying cold wind. If it had been anyone else who had not broken through to the godly emperor lair, they would have turned into an ice sculpture. Lu Ming sensed that the deeper they went into the snowy mountain, the colder it would be. When the Blood Skull Pirates arrived, their facial expressions changed drastically. "That little boy wants to use the cold qi to block us. Humph, what a fool," said the bearded man while smiling coldly. He could easily see through Lu Ming's plan, but he didn't care. His cultivation level was much higher than Lu Ming's. If Lu Ming could block the cold wind, he could block it too. If he couldn't block it, Lu Ming wouldn't be able to block it before he did. When Lu Ming couldn't block the cold qi anymore, he would definitely use all his trump cards. At that time, they would be able to see if there was anything strange about the copper coffin. They continued flying towards the depths of the snowy mountain. The coldness was becoming more and more terrifying. Lu Ming had the feeling that his body was going to freeze. His blood was going to freeze. Even if he used forbidden strength, it was useless. His forbidden strength was still too weak. He couldn't block the cold qi. His body was covered in a layer of ice, and he was moving slower and slower. At that moment, some of the Bloodskull pirates couldn't block it anymore, especially those who had the strength of the third Godly Emperor layer and below. Their bodies were covered in a layer of ice. Their bodies, including their soul, were going to freeze. Those people had no choice but to stop, because if they continued, they would die. Only those who had the strength of the fourth Godly Emperor layer and above could continue. Humph, I want to see what tricks you're playing. The bearded man grunted coldly. His cultivation level was incredible. He had the strength of the seventh Godly Emperor layer, and he had awakened many times. Violent divine power burst out continuously, forming shockwaves that rushed out in all directions, pushing away the chill in the surroundings. He was still very relaxed. I really didn't expect the coldness here to be so terrifying. Even my taboo energy can't block it. I can only rely on the Zephyr Pearl. Lu Ming thought. When he rushed into the snow mountain, he had already thought of a countermeasure, which was to rely on the Gale Pearl. The Gale inside the Gale Pearl not only had destructive power, it also had a terrifyingly high temperature, which was just nice to be used to resist the chill here. Lu Ming immediately used the Great Divine Wind technique, drawing out a gust of strong wind from the Gale Pearl. Lu Ming's body seemed to be surrounded by a gust of wind. A circle of strong wind enveloped Lu Ming. The high temperature of the strong wind and the cold air of the surroundings were two extremes. When the two extremes collided, there was a dense explosion. As expected, I blocked it. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The high temperature of the strong wind blocked the cold qi. Lu Ming felt much more relaxed. He suddenly sped up. Swish, swish. Lu Ming flew over a few snowy mountains, increasing the distance between him and the curly-bearded man and the others. Oh no, that little boy's treasure can block the cold here. The curly-bearded man's expression changed drastically. He looked grim. Attack! Let's attack together. That little boy is probably bluffing. He doesn't have any trump cards, shouted the curly-bearded man. Lu Ming had the strong wind to block the cold qi. If it continued, Lu Ming would really escape. The curly-bearded man couldn't wait any longer, so he attacked immediately. Boom! The burly man with the curly beard struck out a palm. The terrifying palm force broke through the chill and blasted toward Lu Ming. At the same time, the other cultivators of the 5th and 6th Godly Emperor layer also attacked. All sorts of terrifying attacks shot towards Lu Ming. Strong wind, come out! Shouted Lu Ming extremely loudly. He used all his strength to condense the strength of the strong wind pearl. A strong wind rose up and formed a wall behind him. Boom, boom, boom. The curly-bearded man and the others' attacks crashed onto the wall of wind and exploded. After a few breaths, the wall of wind trembled violently and broke apart. Lu Ming felt a violent force pressing down on him. His body shook violently and he was thrown backward, crashing into a snow mountain. A corner of the snow mountain was smashed into smithereens. The snow here was sealed in ice by a terrifying chill. It was even harder than divine weapons. From this, one could see how great the power was. 7th Godly Emperor layer, as expected, terrifying. Lu Ming's eyes twinkled. The curly-bearded man's attack had to break through the cold qi first. Part of his strength had already been absorbed by the cold qi, and then he had broken through the wall of wind. The remaining strength was extremely weak, but he had still managed to injure Lu Ming. If he hadn't been weakened, Lu Ming would have been crushed to pieces. Swish, Lu Ming didn't stop. He put away the coffin and flew towards the depths of the snowy mountain. Obviously, the curly-bearded man didn't care about the coffin anymore. Carrying the coffin was useless, so he put it away and sped up. That little boy has exhausted all his abilities. Chase him and avenge the young master, shouted the curly-bearded man coldly. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he charged towards Lu Ming. The distance between the two of them was getting closer. Huff, huff, huff. A cold wind whistled. Lu Ming suddenly shivered. What a terrifying cold chi. That's... Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. In front, there was a huge glacier canyon. There was a terrifying chill coming from the glacier canyon. There was actually a trace of it that passed through the gale, making Lu Ming feel a chill. It was really too shocking. But now, to Lu Ming, this was a place that he had been dreaming of. Lu Ming didn't hesitate and immediately flew towards the glacial valley. Not good. Don't let him in. The curly-bearded man roared. He also felt the terrifying chill in the glacial canyon, which made him feel apprehensive. If he allowed Lu Ming to charge out, things would not be good for him. Boom! The curly-bearded man once more attacked. A terrifying attack shot towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming used all his strength to control the strong wind bead. Another gale formed a wind wall behind him. There was a deafening sound, and a gush of terrifying energy dashed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming coughed up blood. His injuries had worsened. But using this energy, Lu Ming's speed suddenly increased, and he charged into the glacial valley. As soon as he dashed into the glacier canyon, Lu Ming sped forward. Around him, the wind and cold chi collided. A series of explosions rang out, blocking the cold chi. Myriad Tao Dragon Emperor. Chapter 38-65. Lu Ming charged into the glacial canyon despite his injuries. He used the energy of the Gale Pearl to block the attack of the terrifying chill in the canyon. The mustached man and the others were furious and also rushed into the valley. As soon as they entered the valley, their expressions changed drastically. They were terrified. Ah! Help! A few of the weaker members of the Blood Skull pirate group let out terrified shrieks as a layer of frost covered their bodies. Furthermore, this layer of frost was spreading at an alarming speed, soon covering their entire bodies and turning into a layer of ice armor. Those people only had the strength of the fourth godly emperor layer, but they were frozen. They couldn't move at all. They crashed to the ground and broke into pieces. Only the cultivators of the fourth godly emperor layer and above managed to block the ice, but they didn't have a good time either. They released their godly strength to block the ice and then retreated. When they left the valley, they sat down cross-legged and circulated their chi to block the ice. At that moment, only the mustached man was left in the valley. Little bastard, do you think you can escape from the Blood Skull pirate crew's pursuit by hiding here? None of the people that the Blood Skull pirate crew wants to kill have ever escaped. The bearded man shouted loudly. His eyes were ferocious and murderous, intent flashed continuously. You talk a lot of crap. If you're strong enough, come and kill me, said Lu Ming, smiling coldly. Then he continued, flying deeper into the valley. The mustached man was so angry that his beard was trembling. He ground his teeth and continued chasing Lu Ming. However, the deeper they went, the more terrifying the ice became. It was as if it could freeze everything, including all the particles in the universe. Even with the mustached man's cultivation level, it was difficult for him to block the ice. He had to concentrate and circulate his chi to the 10th level to block the ice. However, as a result, the burly man's speed was greatly reduced, and his speed was almost the same as Lu Ming's. He could not catch up with Lu Ming at all. The two of them chased and fled. In the blink of an eye, they were thousands of miles into the glacier canyon. Whoosh, whoosh, a terrifying wind was whistling. The valley was surprisingly deep. After 1,000 li, they still hadn't reached the end. They didn't know how deep it was. Boom! Bang! Suddenly, a rumbling sound came from the ground. Then, huge figures appeared from all directions. These figures were apes. This kind of ape was snow-white and had a strong physique. It held weapons made of ice in its hands. These apes didn't seem to be afraid of the cold at all. They roared and charged towards Lu Ming and the curly-bearded man. All sorts of weapons shot towards Lu Ming and the curly-bearded man, emitting terrifying fluctuations. Before they even got close, Lu Ming could already feel a terrifying pressure. This kind of pressure was definitely not something that Lu Ming could withstand with his own strength. Lu Ming could only rely on the power of the gale pearl to rush out with the surging gale. As soon as the apes felt the strong wind, they seemed to be very afraid. They suddenly withdrew their attacks halfway and retreated rapidly, increasing the distance between them and Lu Ming. On the other side, a shocking battle was taking place. More than a dozen apes were attacking the curly-bearded man fiercely. The strength of these apes might be far inferior to the curly-bearded man, but in this place the curly-bearded man's strength was greatly suppressed. On the other hand, these apes were like fish in water. They could even use the terrifying cold to launch attacks. Under this situation, the curly-bearded man was actually forced to retreat again and again. He was in a sorry state. Puff! The curly-bearded man was careless and was swept away. A huge wound appeared on his body, but no blood flowed out of this wound because it was completely frozen. Damn it! The curly-bearded man roared in his heart. He was furious. Ayo, ayo, ayo! Seeing that the curly-bearded man was injured, more apes pounced on the curly-bearded man. Even the apes that were originally charging towards Lu Ming gave up on Lu Ming and charged towards the burly man with the curly beard. The curly-bearded man was even more furious. In such an environment, being besieged by so many apes, it was very likely that he would die here. Little bastard, if you have the ability, stay in this canyon for the rest of your life. Finally, the curly-bearded man let out an unwilling roar and retreated rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from Lu Ming's sight. Ha! Lu Ming sneered and let out a sigh of relief. He had finally shaken off the experts of the Blood Skull pirate group, although it was only temporary. Then Lu Ming sat down cross-legged. A steady stream of energy flowed out of every cell in his body and healed Lu Ming's injuries. Before long, Lu Ming's injuries were completely healed. Not only that, because a trace of potential was stimulated, Lu Ming's cultivation base was also slightly stronger. This is indeed a good place to cultivate. With the coldness here, I might be able to continuously stimulate my potential. Feeling the coldness around him, Lu Ming revealed a thoughtful look. For others, this place was a dangerous place, but for him, it might not be. Perhaps it was a holy place for cultivation. He had a forbidden body and cultivated the forbidden force. As long as he still had potential, he could constantly borrow external forces to stimulate it and achieve a breakthrough. However, Lu Ming couldn't expose himself to the coldness outside. There was a limit to borrowing external forces. When the external force was too strong, he couldn't borrow it anymore and would be killed directly. Obviously, the coldness outside this canyon was enough to freeze Lu Ming to death. He could only take it one step at a time. Huff! Huff! Lu Ming manipulated the gale inside the gale pearl and opened a gap. Immediately, a gust of coldness rushed in. When this gust of coldness rushed in, Lu Ming immediately closed the defense of the gale to prevent other coldness from entering. It's so cold! Even though it was just a gust of coldness that enveloped Lu Ming's body, Lu Ming felt a bone-chilling coldness. This coldness was too terrifying. It had completely penetrated into every cell, and even the particles smaller than the cells stopped moving. Block it for me! Lu Ming roared. Energy was constantly stimulated from the 60 trillion cells in his body, covering his whole body to resist this force and prevent himself from being frozen to death. However, it was still very cold, extremely cold. Lu Ming felt as if he was in a 10,000-year-old ice house. His teeth were chattering nonstop, and his blood seemed to be turning into ice. However, Lu Ming was able to withstand it in the end. He successfully dispelled the chill. At the same time, some of the potential in the depths of his cells was also stimulated. Lu Ming felt that his cultivation base had improved again. This kind of improvement was very shocking and could be clearly felt. "It's really effective." Lu Ming was ecstatic, his eyes shining. If he continued to cultivate like this, he had a feeling that it wouldn't be long before he could break through to the 9th level Divine Lord Realm. Chapter 3866. The coldness in the glacier canyon was indeed very useful. It could greatly stimulate Lu Ming's potential. Lu Ming was overjoyed and planned to continue cultivating here. Immediately, Lu Ming controlled the gale to open up a gap and let in a trace of coldness. Then, he desperately resisted this coldness. His body was covered in a layer of ice at a speed visible to the naked eye. This ice had frozen Lu Ming's muscles, bones, blood, and internal organs. This was very dangerous. If an ordinary person was frozen like this, their life force would definitely be extinguished. They would definitely be frozen to death. However, it was also because of this that his potential could be stimulated. An endless stream of energy spread out from his cells. After this coldness was completely blocked, Lu Ming felt that his cultivation had increased a little. In the surroundings, the snow-white apes looked at each other in dismay. They looked at Lu Ming, not knowing how to deal with this foreign invader. However, they were extremely afraid of the terrifying high temperature of the gale. They could only wander around, not daring to attack Lu Ming. When Lu Ming saw this scene, he was completely relieved. He ignored these apes and continued to cultivate. Just like this, 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Boom! On this day, the aura on Lu Ming's body suddenly soared. Like smoke, it surged into the sky. 9th level Divine Lord Realm. After 10 days of cultivation, Lu Ming's cultivation went from the 8th level Divine Lord Realm to the 9th level Divine Lord Realm in one fell swoop. This speed was extremely terrifying. Lu Ming was very satisfied. After rising to the 9th level Divine Lord Realm, Lu Ming felt that the strength in his body had increased by a large amount. Even the taboo power was incomparably vigorous, and his combat strength had increased greatly. Now, facing the quasi-emperor Lingyue, Lu Ming was confident that even if he didn't use the gravity pearl, he could easily defeat Lingyue. Of course, the premise was that Lingyue didn't take out the blood-stained elf King Bao. Facing the quasi-emperor Xiao Wuji, Lu Ming was confident that he could defeat him. By now, Lu Ming was confident that he had few opponents under the godly emperor of the primitive universe. I wonder if the Blood Skull Pirates have retreated. Let's go take a look. Lu Ming converged his aura and waited for it to stabilize. Then, his figure flashed and flew out of the glacier canyon. Not long after, Lu Ming arrived at the periphery of the glacier canyon. As soon as they arrived at the periphery of the glacier canyon, they saw some figures sitting cross-legged outside the glacier canyon, blocking the exit of the glacier canyon. They were none other than the Blood Skull Pirates. At the same time, the Blood Skull Pirates had set up a grand spell formation outside. The great formation shone, forming a barrier of light that surrounded them, using it to block the coldness outside. As soon as Lu Ming appeared, a pair of cold eyes fell on Lu Ming. "Little bastard, you've finally appeared. Let's see how long you can hide," said the bearded man, his eyes filled with killing intent. His eyes looked like two sharp swords as they moved towards Lu Ming. "I just came out to see you. You're still here. Wait for me. I'm very comfortable inside. You don't need to worry about me." Lu Ming grinned. With a flash of his figure, he continued to head toward the depths of the canyon, leaving behind the infuriated burly man and the others. Since the burly man with the curly beard was still here, Lu Ming definitely could not get out now. Even though he had broken through to the next godly emperor layer, the result would still be the same if he faced the bearded man and the others. He had been able to fight against cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer because of the Zephyr Pearl. Relying on his own strength, he couldn't fight against cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer, let alone against cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer. Relying on his own strength, he couldn't fight against the bearded man and the others. Therefore, even though his cultivation had broken through to the next godly emperor layer, it didn't change the situation. He could only return to the canyon and continue cultivating. After returning to the canyon, I've broken through to the next godly emperor layer. My cells have been completely used up. I need to continue absorbing energy, thought Lu Ming. Then he took out a bone pearl and started absorbing energy. With his current cultivation level, if he wanted to fill up all his cells, he would need to consume an incredible amount of energy. After absorbing 5 or 6 bone pearls, Lu Ming's body was finally filled up. Then he continued cultivating. 1 day, 2 days, 10 days, 20 days, a month passed, and Lu Ming still hadn't broken through to the next godly emperor layer. If he broke through to the godly emperor layer, he would become a quasi-emperor. To break through to the godly emperor layer from the godly emperor layer, his star nucleus had to turn into a star. Even when he broke through to the quasi-emperor layer, the 9 rings around his star nucleus had to fuse together. Of course, Lu Ming had a forbidden body. It was completely different from the traditional way of cultivation. He didn't have a star nucleus or a star ring. He judged his cultivation base based on the energy of the taboo energy. Even so, the quasi-emperor layer was still a hurdle that wasn't easy to break through. When the potential in his cells was completely exhausted, his cultivation level still hadn't broken through to the quasi-emperor layer. Lu Ming could only continue to take out bone pearls and absorb energy. When the potential in his cells was full again, the bone pearls in his body had been completely used up. It really consumes a lot of energy. When I break through to the godly emperor layer, the energy consumed will be even more terrifying. It seems that I still need to store more high-energy treasures. Lu Ming thought. There were many high-energy treasures, such as divine herbs, divine elixirs, and treasures that contain majestic life essence, like bone pearls. During this period, Lu Ming had also obtained a lot of divine elixirs that contained majestic energy. They could still be used for a while. Of course, divine crystals also contained energy. It was just that they were too rare and time-consuming to absorb. Therefore, they weren't Lu Ming's first choice. After storing all the potential in his cells, Lu Ming continued cultivating. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. On this day, the aura on Lu Ming's body reached its peak. Then, there was a sudden loud explosion, following which his aura increased rapidly. It was like a volcano erupting. It kept rising as if there was no end to it. In the end, his aura increased by 10 times before it finally stopped. Quasi-Emperor, Lu Ming whispered. He couldn't hide the joy in his eyes. After a few months of bitter cultivation, with the help of the terrifying cold outside, Lu Ming finally broke through the shackles and rushed into the quasi-emperor layer. His combat strength skyrocketed. Lu Ming was confident that his current combat strength was definitely at the peak of the quasi-emperor layer in the entire primitive universe. He wasn't invincible under the godly emperor layer, but he was close. For example, he could defeat Ling Yue and Xiao Wuji in one move. However, his strength was still far from that of the bearded man and the others. Lu Ming returned to the periphery of the canyon and saw the bearded man and the others still waiting there. Lu Ming could only return to the canyon and continue cultivating. Of course, he had to let go of his cultivation. It was too difficult to break through to the godly emperor layer. Book Guest House Reading Website. Chapter 3867. It was difficult to break through to the divine emperor realm in a short period of time. Even with the terrifying chill, it would take a long time. In addition, he did not have many resources left. Breaking through to the divine emperor realm required a huge amount of resources. Although he still had some resources, they might not be enough for him to break through to the divine emperor realm. Therefore, he could take his time to break through to the divine emperor realm. Lu Ming planned to cultivate secret skills first. 2 of the 3,000 ancient secret skills, and hundreds of ordinary secret skills. Back then, he had bought 150 ordinary secret arts from Schwemming's subordinates and obtained hundreds of secret arts from the Life Soul Heavenly Court. He had not had time to cultivate so many secret skills recently. Now that he was trapped here, it was a good time to cultivate. Lu Ming controlled the strong wind and shrouded himself in it. He sat cross-legged and was not affected by the chill outside. He focused on comprehending secret skills. Right now, Lu Ming was very familiar with all kinds of secret skills. Moreover, as his cultivation level deepened, the taboo power constantly improved his comprehension ability. The speed at which he comprehended these ordinary secret skills was astonishing. It only took him a few hours to comprehend a secret technique. He could comprehend several secret skills in a day and turn them into secret skill runes and integrate them into his cells. In the blink of an eye, more than 4 months had passed. He had completely mastered hundreds of secret skills. Right now, Lu Ming had mastered a total of 1,000 types of secret skills. Yes, exactly 1,000. These secret skills were all-encompassing, and there were all kinds of secret skills. As long as he thought about it, they would burst out like a storm. After mastering these secret skills, Lu Ming began to focus on 2 ancient secret skills, the Great Shatter Art and the Great Godwind Art. The 3,000 ancient secret skills were not weaker than the Origin secret skills. Especially for geniuses with high comprehension, they could improve rapidly. The power of the early stage was stronger than the Origin secret skills. They were the most suitable secret skills for Lu Ming. Lu Ming naturally had to spend more effort on them. Lu Ming planned to cultivate the Great Shatter Art first. The Great Shatter Art was only 1 step away from mastering it. Once mastering it, its power would surge and be on par with the Great Godwind Art. Comprehending it alone is still too slow. Oh, right, those apes? Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up as he swept his gaze towards the apes. At first, those apes surrounded Lu Ming, but after a few months, they seemed to have lost their patience. Some had already left, and only 5 or 6 were still surrounding Lu Ming. Lu Ming planned to use these apes as opponents to cultivate the ancient secret technique. Whoosh! Lu Ming walked towards one of the apes. That ape immediately stared at Lu Ming cautiously, mainly because it was afraid of Lai Feng. However, in the next moment, Lu Ming directly opened up half of the area covered by the gale, allowing the ape to directly face Lu Ming. "Come on," Lu Ming muttered. Seeing that Lai Feng had retreated half of the gale, the ape's eyes were filled with ferocious, killing intent. It hesitated for a moment before roaring and taking a heavy step forward. Its huge body pounced towards Lu Ming, bringing with it a whistling cold wind. The ape held a snow-white popsicle in its hand and whipped it towards Lu Ming. The cold wind whistled, and the popsicle exploded the space. The terrifying chill seemed to be about to freeze everything. 6 times combat strength, Great Shatter Art. Lu Ming growled and directly activated the battle symbol art to increase his combat strength by 6 times. Of course, he couldn't instantly activate the battle symbol art to increase his combat strength by 6 times. In fact, he had been trying to activate it for a long time before he succeeded. With the cultivation of a quasi-emperor, the battle symbol art could increase his combat strength by 6 times, filling his body with endless power. He activated the Great Shatter Art and struck out with his palm. Clang! Lu Ming's palm hit the popsicle. Immediately, he felt a terrifying chill and terrifying force rushing towards him, wanting to tear him apart and explode him. "Break for me!" shouted Lu Ming furiously. A terrifying strength burst out. The Great Shatter Art was unceasingly released, as if it wanted to destroy everything. Under the attack of the Great Shatter Art, the chill was unceasingly being torn apart. Even the terrifying force was being torn apart. Boom! Lu Ming's body retreated rapidly. He only stopped when he was hundreds of miles away. His body was already covered with a layer of ice. His hands were covered with cracks and blood was flowing out. The ape was also pushed back, but it wasn't as far as Lu Ming. Lu Ming was at a complete disadvantage in this move. With his current strength, he could easily kill cultivators of the third godly emperor layer, but he still wasn't a match for the ape. Roar! The ape was even more furious after being pushed back. It roared furiously and continued attacking Lu Ming. The popsicle was like a mountain moving towards Lu Ming. Gravity pearls. Lu Ming's heart stirred, and 3 gravity pearls flew out. The terrifying gravity shrouded the ape. Enveloped by the gravity, the ape's body trembled slightly. Clearly, it was greatly affected. After that, Lu Ming also rushed over and used the great shatter art. He threw a punch at the ape. Boom! Another heaven-shocking explosion sounded. This time the 2 sides were evenly matched, both retreating 100 li. It's working. Come again! Lu Ming's eyes twinkled. He looked excited. As expected, the best way to practice a secret skill was to fight. Lu Ming used his full strength to exchange a few blows with the ape. He had the feeling that he had a new understanding of the great shatter art. The ape was even crazier. It roared and attacked Lu Ming. The 2 of them started fighting intensely. There were other apes on the side who also wanted to attack Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming controlled the gale and swept it towards the apes. They were scared and kept retreating. In this way, Lu Ming and the ape exchanged a few hundred blows. The ape was emitting white qi. It was exhausted and had to retreat. Lu Ming also took the opportunity to rest. After Lu Ming had a good rest, he removed Lai Feng and looked for other monkeys to fight. In this way, Lu Ming fought with the ape for 3 days. On the 4th day, bang! The void trembled violently as a snow-white ape retreated 200 miles away in a frenzy. Lu Ming only retreated a few dozen li. Lu Ming finally gained the upper hand. I finally learned the great shatter art. Lu Ming was delighted. Originally, he had already practiced the great shatter art to a certain extent and was not far from the beginner level. After 3 days of continuous fighting, he finally practiced the great shatter art to the beginner level. He made the great shatter art reach the same level as the great divine wind art. Its power sword. Kill! Lu Ming shouted and continued to attack the ape. He kept throwing out his palms. Each of his palms had the power of the great shatter art. Every time he threw out a palm, the space shook violently and cracks like a spider web appeared. The ape tried its best to resist, but it could no longer hold on. It kept retreating, and cracks appeared on the popsicle in its hand. Chapter 38:68. Lu Ming forced an ape to keep retreating. It only had the strength to resist and had no strength to fight back. Asterisk roar. Asterisk on the side. Several other apes kept roaring and jumping, trying to attack Lu Ming, but unfortunately they were all blocked by the gale. Want to attack? Well, let 2 more come in. Lu Ming's heart moved, and he retracted the range of the gale a little. Asterisk roar. Asterisk immediately. 2 apes roared and dashed toward Lu Ming. Together with the one in front, there were a total of 3 apes. The 3 snow-white apes attacked Lu Ming at the same time with different attacks. Come on! Great divine wind technique! Great shattering technique! Lu Ming bellowed and used the 2 ancient mystic skills. His whole body was wrapped in a strange hurricane, and inside it, there was the shattering power of the great shattering spell. Asterisk swish! Asterisk swish! Asterisk Lu Ming blasted out 3 palm prints in a row towards the 3 apes. There was a big explosion in this area, and the void was constantly collapsing. 1 man and 3 apes engaged in a fierce confrontation. As soon as the confrontation began, Lu Ming fell into a disadvantage and was no match for the 3 apes. The main thing was that one of the apes was stronger and stronger, forcing Lu Ming to keep retreating. Good, good, this is interesting, this is stressful. Lu Ming was not surprised but happy. Instead, he was even more excited. Asterisk boom. Asterisk, his body shook and all his cells trembled. There were hundreds of offensive secret techniques that all burst out. Lu Ming's body emitted a bright light, which had a variety of colors. There were hundreds of colors in total, which was caused by hundreds of secret techniques. There were no outsiders here. Lu Ming had no scruples and let these secret techniques manifest. There were roars of 9 dragons, bursts of sword chi, dancing saber light, roars of tigers, all kinds of secret techniques blasted towards the 3 apes. At the same time, Lu Ming launched the main attack with the Great Shattering Technique and Great Divine Wind Technique. Lu Ming could be said to have used all his means to block the attacks of the 3 apes, but he was still at a disadvantage. However, only pressure could stimulate one's potential. Lu Ming enjoyed this kind of battle very much. After hundreds of battles, the 3 apes were tired and retreated. Lu Ming also took the opportunity to rest. After a while, he continued to fight. In this fierce confrontation, not only were the 2 ancient secret techniques tempered, but even other ordinary secret techniques were also tempered and become stronger. For the rest of the time, Lu Ming cultivated with peace of mind. In the beginning, Lu Ming was no match for the 3 apes. However, as time passed, he was gradually able to block the attacks of the 3 apes. A month later, Lu Ming was already able to fight to a draw with the 3 apes. After that, Lu Ming continued to use the Great Divine Wind Technique to fight against the 5 apes. Time flew. Half a year passed quickly. Lu Ming had been in the Glacial Valley for a year. After that period of cultivation, Lu Ming's mastery of the Great Divine Wind Technique and the Great Shattering Technique had increased by a lot. As his mastery increased, his strength also increased. Lu Ming's overall fighting strength had also increased. Now, Lu Ming didn't know how strong he could be if he used his full strength. He also didn't know what level of godly emperor he could defeat. But Lu Ming was sure that he could easily kill ordinary cultivators of the 3rd godly emperor layer. It was worth mentioning that Qiu Qiu had evolved again. He had broken through to the 3rd godly emperor layer and could kill cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer. That gave Lu Ming more confidence. I wonder if the Blood Skull Pirates are still here. With my current strength, I should be able to break through, thought Lu Ming. Of course, he couldn't defeat cultivators of the 6th or 7th godly emperor layer. But during this period of time, his Great Divine Wind Technique had improved. He could summon even stronger gales from the Great Divine Wind Pearl. He had a better chance of defeating the curly-bearded big man. Even if he couldn't kill the curly-bearded big man, he could seize the opportunity to escape. Now, they had been in Bing Xian's life spirit palace for a year. He had been trapped there for a long time. How was he doing? Lu Ming didn't want to stay there any longer. Lu Ming used the Great Divine Wind Pearl to protect himself and return to the periphery of the valley. Outside the valley, the Blood Skull Pirates were still in the grand spell formation. Those people are really stubborn. Lu Ming was speechless. Little bastard, let's see how long you can stay here. I have plenty of time to waste with you. When the curly-bearded big man saw Lu Ming, he looked even more furious than before. Humph, I'm younger than you, so it's not certain who has more time. Let's just waste time then, said Lu Ming angrily. But this time, Lu Ming didn't retreat. He looked around, trying to find an opportunity to escape. Pung pung! Suddenly, Lu Ming took a step forward and walked out of the glacier canyon. The curly-bearded big man and the others were excited. He can't stay here any longer. He wants to break through. Seal him, said the curly-bearded big man to the others telepathically. The members of the Blood Skull Pirates split into a few rows. Powerful auras spread out from them, interweaving with each other as they prepared to launch a thunderous attack. They didn't dare be careless because they knew how strong the Great Divine Wind Pearl was. Phew, phew! Lu Ming held the Great Divine Wind Pearl in his hand and used the Great Divine Wind Technique to summon the Great Divine Wind Pearl strength. Immediately, a strong wind whistled and turned into a huge tornado. It swept in all directions towards the Blood Skull pirates. "Break!" shouted the bearded man furiously. He released his chi of the seventh godly emperor layer. He raised his hands, and a few pitch-black skeletal claws moved towards the tornado. Boom! The two attacks collided with each other, resulting in an earth-shattering explosion. The earth quaked, and the sky began to crumble. In the next moment, the curly-bearded big man's expression changed drastically. Originally, he thought that this move would be enough to defeat Lu Ming's great divine wind pearl. A year ago, he had easily defeated Lu Ming's great divine wind pearl. But this time he didn't manage to break it. It was blocked. You blocked it. Good. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He wasn't sure if the great divine wind pearl could block the curly-bearded big man's attack. But now he was relieved. Then his eyes were filled with killing intent. He just wanted to rush out and leave, but now he changed his mind. If he didn't make the Blood Skull pirates pay a painful price, how could he be willing to leave? With a thought, Chiu turned into an armor and covered Lu Ming's body. Afterward, Lu Ming activated the great divine wind technique with all his might. Another gust of strong wind was drawn out from the gale pearl. Phew, a strong gale whizzed by, tearing space apart as if it were tofu. The violent gale swept towards the Blood Skull pirates at an astonishing speed. Chapter 3869. Lai Feng's speed was too fast, like lightning. Unable to dodge in time, the Blood Skull pirates were enveloped by the gale. Immediately, screams of agony could be heard. To be honest, given Lu Ming's current level of mastery of the great godly wind skill, the gale drawn out from the gale pearl was too powerful. Those below the 6th level of the divine emperor realm could not resist it at all. Once they were enveloped by it, they would die. The pirates of the Blood Skull pirates, who had the strength of the 6th godly emperor layer, were cut into pieces. Only 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer didn't die, but they were severely injured. Their bodies were tattered and covered with wounds. They were bleeding and smelled like barbecued meat. All of a sudden, there were only 4 people left in the Blood Skull gang. Kill! Having gained the upper hand in one move, Lu Ming would not give his opponent a chance to catch his breath. Chiu condensed a silver spear. Lu Ming grabbed the silver spear and thrust it towards a cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer. The cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer had been severely injured by the Zephyr Gale. He had less than 10% of his strength left. He shouted furiously and released an explosive attack to block the Moonlight Spear. However, he didn't have much strength left. Although he was able to block a portion of the Moonlight Spear's power, he wasn't able to block all of it. Finally, a ray of Moonlight Spear light pierced through this person's body. Great divine wind art! Great shattering art! Lu Ming's left hand blasted out continuously as he executed 2 ancient secret techniques. A wave of destructive energy rushed towards the other party. With injuries on top of injuries, the other party was already incomparably dispirited. How could he still block Lu Ming's attack? The destructive energy swept over, and that person let out an unwilling scream. His body was torn apart, and he died on the spot. A cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer had been killed. The other 2 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer were terrified and retreated. Damn it! The curly-bearded man roared. His murderous intent had reached its peak. The raging flames of anger seemed to want to burn his body. He attacked crazily and finally broke through the tornado formed by the strong wind. Then he charged towards Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming had been waiting for him. As soon as the curly-bearded man pounced over, Lu Ming immediately controlled the great divine wind technique and drew out a powerful gale from the gale pearl, sweeping towards the curly-bearded man. The energy inside the gale bead was practically limitless. The existence that had left behind the Gale Pearl was too terrifying. The gale that had been stirred up had destroyed an entire galaxy, turning it into a land of gale that would not dissipate even after countless years. Therefore, the energy inside the gale bead was simply too abundant. What Lu Ming was drawing out was just a drop in the ocean. Lu Ming felt that if he could draw out the energy inside the Gale Pearl, he could probably destroy an entire galaxy in an instant. Therefore, there was no need to worry that there would not be enough gale in the Gale Pearl. A strong gale swept out and blocked the curly-bearded man. Lu Ming attacked the remaining 2 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer. The 2 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer were severely injured. In addition, the coldness here was extremely shocking. Although it wasn't as shocking as the glacial canyon, it still had a great impact on them. This greatly reduced their speed. Lu Ming wasn't affected by the cold, and with his great godly wind technique, he was extremely fast. He caught up with the 2 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer and attacked them like a storm. The attack of the silver spear that Qiu had transformed into, as well as Lu Ming's own attack, was fatal to the 2 severely injured members of the Blood Skull pirate team. Although the 2 of them tried their best to resist, the outcome was already determined. Another cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer was killed. "Ah, little bastard, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to grind your bones to dust." The curly-bearded man was incomparably furious. He kept on attacking, but unfortunately, when he broke through the gale, Lu Ming rewarded him with another gale, preventing him from charging over. Lu Ming continued attacking the last cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer. Very quickly, the last cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer followed in the footsteps of the others. He was killed by Lu Ming. That way, only the curly-bearded man was left of the Blood Skull pirate group. The curly-bearded man's eyes were wide open. His hair and beard stood on end. His hands had turned pitch black like ink, emitting a deep and serene aura. He continuously attacked with terrifying power. Every time it blasted out, a huge explosion would occur in the void. Even though Lu Ming's gale was extremely strong, the curly-bearded man could break it in a few attacks. "Die!" shouted the curly-bearded man furiously. He threw a punch at the gale, which shook and dispersed. Then, a gigantic hand moved towards Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming still drew out a wisp of energy from the Gale Pearl to block the pitch-black handprint. "You're the only one left." Lu Ming stared at the curly-bearded man. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He didn't want to leave like that. He wanted to see if he could kill the curly-bearded man as well. Whoosh whoosh, Lu Ming held the Gale Pearl in his hand, and a strong gale filled the air as he moved towards the curly-bearded man. "You want to kill me? You're overestimating yourself." "Brutal hand!" shouted the curly-bearded man furiously. He stretched out his hand, and the space around him broke apart like tofu. Bang, 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 the strong gale collided with the curly-bearded man's hand. In the blink of an eye, they had collided a few hundred times. Finally, the gale was broken. "Unfortunately, it's not strong enough. I can't injure him fatally," sighed Lu Ming. The gale he had released wasn't strong enough. Even though it could block the curly-bearded man's attack, it couldn't threaten his life. "Let's see how much strength you can release. When you run out of strength, you'll die," roared the curly-bearded man. He did not believe that the power of the Gale Pearl in Lu Ming's hands was limitless. Once the power of the Gale Pearl was depleted, he would crush Lu Ming into ashes to vent his anger. This time he had suffered a great loss. In order to deal with Lu Ming, he had wasted so much time, and all of his men had been killed by Lu Ming. If the leader of the Blood Skull Pirates found out about this, he would definitely be punished. Only by killing Lu Ming could he make up for his mistakes. Therefore, he had never been more eager to kill Lu Ming. "Kill! Kill!" The curly-bearded man kept attacking, trying to deplete the energy of the Gale Pearl as soon as possible. However, the the energy of the Gale Pearl was endless. Lu Ming kept releasing energy. Moreover, Lu Ming took the opportunity to launch his own attack. The moonlight spear light blasted towards the curly-bearded man, carrying the energy of the great God-wind art and the great shattering art. Unfortunately, the curly-bearded man defeated Lu Ming's attack with a single palm. Chapter 3870. Lu Ming's own strength, even with Qiu, was still a far cry from the curly-bearded man. Looks like I can't kill this guy. Lu Ming sighed in his heart and began to think about how to evacuate. Since he couldn't kill this fellow, there was no point in dragging it out. He had been in Bing Xian's life spirit hall for a year and hadn't gotten anything. He couldn't let others get it. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. Whoosh! From outside the snowy mountain, an arrow flew rapidly towards the bearded man. Fast, terrifyingly fast. It was powerful, terrifyingly powerful. Almost instantly, he closed in on the curly-bearded man. The bearded man's expression changed drastically because he felt a fatal danger from that arrow. It was a danger that could threaten his life. At the critical moment, the bearded man let out a roar. His pitch-black palm suddenly slapped out at a strange angle towards the arrow. Clang! It was as if two pieces of metal had collided with each other, causing energy ripples to spread out in all directions. Lu Ming could clearly see that the arrow was constantly vibrating and emitting a terrifying penetrative power. Puff! In the end, the curly-bearded man let out a muffled groan and retreated rapidly. His pitch-black palm had actually been pierced through, and pitch-black blood flowed out. Furthermore, the arrows did not stop. They continued to land on his body, piercing through his body. Ah! The bearded man roared like a wounded lion, staring in the direction outside the snow mountain. In that direction, a figure was walking through the air. The person who came had a graceful figure and a peerless elegance. If it wasn't Ling Yue, who else could it be? Ling Yue's entire body was enveloped by a green divine light. Her powerful aura opened up a part of the world, making Lu Ming feel as if a star was hanging in the air. Divine Emperor! Lu Ming's pupils shrank as he muttered. That's right. Ling Yue's cultivation had already completely reached the divine Emperor realm. Lu Ming definitely wouldn't sense it wrongly. Unexpectedly, after a year of not seeing each other, Ling Yue had already made a major breakthrough. It had to be known that it was extremely difficult for a quasi-emperor to break through to the divine emperor realm. Many peerless geniuses were trapped at this step for an unknown period of time. As for Ling Yue, she had already broken through after disappearing for a year. It seemed that Ling Yue must have had a fortuitous encounter this year. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to do it so quickly. For a monstrous genius like Ling Yue, once she stepped into the divine emperor realm, her battle prowess would soar crazily. Perhaps her current combat strength was already above Lu Ming's. Although Lu Ming had gone from the 8th level of the divine lord realm to the quasi-emperor realm, which was an increase of 2 levels, these 2 levels were just small levels. But from the quasi-emperor realm to the divine emperor realm was an increase of a major realm. The advancement of a major realm was far from being comparable to the advancement of a minor realm. Ling Yue held a bloody battle bow in her hand. That arrow just now was shot by Ling Yue with the Elven King's bow that was stained with blood. Although Ling Yue had broken through to the divine emperor stage and her battle prowess had soared, it was still impossible for her to injure the bearded man. She needed to use the Elf King bow. However, after breaking through to the divine emperor realm, it was much easier for her to control the Elven King bow. Mu Yin, let's work together and kill this person. Ling Yue's voice sounded in Lu Ming's ears. All right, Lu Ming replied without thinking. Then it was a violent attack. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming used the great divine wind technique with all his might. From the Gale Pearl, a powerful gale whistled out and swept towards the bearded man. Following that, The 3 gravity orbs also flew out, and the powerful gravity pressed down. Although with Lu Ming's current cultivation, controlling the 3 gravity orbs wouldn't have much of an effect on the bearded man. But it would still affect him a little, right? Sensing the killing intent of Lu Ming and Ling Yue, the bearded man became even more furious. "You 2 little bastards want to kill me? Dream on! Tyrannical hand, shatter the world!" The bearded man roared crazily. His body was enveloped by a layer of black light. His 2 claws became even darker as they continuously clawed out, creating a terrifying wave of strength chi that fought against the gale. Crackling sounds of explosions could be heard in the air. "Elven King's arrow!" Ling Yue shouted. The aura on her body was pushed to the limit, and a towering tree appeared. This towering tree contained an immeasurable amount of life essence, and all of it was injected into Ling Yue's body. In an instant, Ling Yue's aura reached its peak. She drew her bow and nocked an arrow. An emerald green arrow condensed and shattered the void as it shot towards the curly-bearded man's face. In the past, Ling Yue could only shoot 1 arrow with the Elven King's bow, and that was her limit. But now, Ling Yue could not only shoot 1 arrow, but it was even more powerful. The bearded man's expression was extremely solemn as he continuously struck out with his palms. However, he was unable to block it at all. His palms were violently trembling, and on his palms there were at least dozens of layers of black light that were instantly pierced through by the arrow. Puff! This time, both of the bearded man's palms were pierced through. The arrow pierced through the space between his eyebrows. The bearded man's expression changed drastically. At the critical moment, he twisted his body slightly and avoided the fatal blow. The arrow pierced through his neck, leaving behind a bloody hole that penetrated from front to back. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely die after receiving such an attack. However, for a divine Emperor Realm expert, such an injury was nothing at all. With the circulation of his divine power, he would quickly recover. However, in that instant, he would still be greatly affected. Now is the time. How could Lu Ming miss such an opportunity? He activated the Zephyr Pearl with all his might. Whoosh! A scorching gale swept out, enveloping the bearded man within and crazily spinning and cutting him. Ah! The bearded man let out a heaven-shaking roar as he frantically resisted. However, he was enveloped by the gale and had already lost the initiative. One had to know that the gale inside the Zephyr Pearl was almost endless. Before the burly man with the curly beard dashed out, Lu Ming drew out another gust of strong wind, which swirled around the burly man with the curly beard. When the gale was slightly smaller, Lu Ming pulled out another gale. After continuously pulling out 7 or 8 gusts of wind, the bearded man finally couldn't hold on any longer. His body seemed to have been cut by countless blades, leaving behind countless wounds. Mu Yun, open a gap and let me end him completely. Ling Yue transmitted her voice. Lu Ming nodded, and in the direction of Ling Yue, he opened a small gap in the gale. The bearded man immediately rushed towards a gap, wanting to escape. However, what welcomed him was Ling Yue's arrow. Swoosh! The terrifying arrow pierced through the bearded man in an instant. A destructive power erupted and a huge explosion occurred on the bearded man's body. A huge bloody hole was blasted open and his aura was dispirited. The endless gale took the opportunity to cut towards the bearded man. No. The bearded man let out a desperate cry, but after a few breaths, there was no sound. Chapter 3871. The bearded man let out a few screams of despair, and then he no longer made a sound. He was severely injured by Ling Yue's arrow, and then enveloped by the gale, he was completely obliterated. A great expert of the 7th level of the Divine Emperor Realm was killed by 2 young juniors just like that. To be honest, the 7th level of the Divine Emperor Realm was truly shockingly strong, and his battle prowess was extremely terrifying. The main reason was that he was unlucky enough to meet Lu Ming and Ling Yue. Not only were the two of them monstrous geniuses, they also had terrifying killing weapons in their hands. The bearded man had completely died at the hands of the two's killing weapons. When the bearded man's aura completely disappeared, Lu Ming released the gale. With a grab of his hand, the bearded man's storage ring flew into Lu Ming's hand. "We'll split the treasures inside," Lu Ming said to Ling Yue. This time, it was all thanks to Ling Yue. Otherwise, Lu Ming wouldn't have been able to keep the bearded man. Moreover, the reason why Ling Yue had come here was most likely to help him. This warmed his heart slightly. Ling Yue's character was still not bad, causing Lu Ming to have more trust in her. "No need, this storage ring is yours. Just treat it as me thanking you for letting me escape." Ling Yue smiled, like 100 flowers blooming, incomparably beautiful. The pearl on the universe's pearl list lived up to his reputation. "Then I won't be polite." Lu Ming smiled and no longer held back. He kept the bearded man's storage ring. "Oh, right, I've been trapped here for a year. How's the Bing Xian Life Soul Palace? Has it all been plundered?" Lu Ming asked. "Actually, I'm not too sure either. A year ago, after I escaped, I accidentally came to a wonderful place. That place was very suitable for me to cultivate. I cultivated there for a year, broke through to the Divine Emperor realm and left. After leaving, I followed the direction you escaped in and found this place. As for what happened in the Bing Xian Life Soul Palace, I'm not too sure either," Ling Yue said. Lu Ming nodded his head. It seemed that Ling Yue was similar to him, and did not know what had happened in the Bing Xian Life Soul Hall. Since the two of them had met again, they naturally planned to continue working together. After that, the two of them left the snowy mountain and headed towards the depths of Bing Xian's Life Spirit Palace. Next, they found several cities and palace-like buildings in succession, but the things inside were all emptied. Obviously, others had beaten them to it. However, the two of them discovered a frightening scene. Those buildings were filled with dried corpses. Yes, it was exactly the same as what Lu Ming had seen before. Some of these mummified corpses were lying down, while others were sitting cross-legged. They seemed to be sleeping or cultivating. Suddenly, their essence, energy, and soul were sucked away, turning them into mummified corpses. It was definitely not left behind recently. It was left behind countless years ago. This made Lu Ming and Ling Yue puzzled. This was one of the 9 life spirit halls of the Life Spirit Heavenly Court, Bingxian Life Spirit Hall. The people who lived there were all from the Life Spirit Heavenly Court. Why would the people of the Life Spirit Heavenly Court be sucked dry in an instant? Could it be the doing of the Heavenly Palace? The two of them were puzzled and could only continue forward. Boom! Suddenly, from an unknown distance away, there was a rumbling sound. Space rippled with visible ripples. Following that in that direction, a blood-colored light pierced through the clouds. Even from a distance, one could see it. The blood-colored light pierced through the clouds. It was dazzling, and the light was millions of feet long. It looked incomparably shocking. More than half of the Bingxian Life Spirit Hall was shaken. What is that? What a resplendent radiance! Could it be that some treasure has been born? Legend has it that the Life Spirit Heavenly Court is a powerful force that can challenge the Heavenly Palace. They have countless treasures. This is one of the 9 Life Spirit Palaces of the Life Spirit Heavenly Court. They must have countless treasures. Let's go and take a look. Anyone who saw this scene all flew towards the direction of the resplendent light. Lu Ming and Ling Yue glanced at each other and nodded silently. Then, they also flew towards the direction of the light. The two of them were very fast. Soon, they arrived at the place where the light was coming from. It was a swamp. At first glance, it was boundless. There was no water in the swamp, but a blood-red liquid that looked like blood. The blood-colored light was coming from the depths of the swamp. When they arrived, the number of people increased dramatically. Many big shots of the chaotic Devil Star area appeared one by one. For example, the patriarch of the Demon Alligator clan was a big shot of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. The patriarch of the Demon Punishment sect was also a big shot of the 7th Godly Emperor layer. Apart from them, there were also some strong cultivators of the 6th and 5th Godly Emperor layer. There were as many strong cultivators as there were clouds. Even if there are treasures, they are mine. Those who block me will die, shouted the patriarch of the Demon Alligator clan coldly. His eyes were as cold as lightning. Hee, how arrogant. Do you really think you are the strongest in the chaotic Devil Star area? Ridiculous. The patriarch of the Demon Punishment sect was not afraid of the patriarch of the Demon Alligator clan. I will kill you sooner or later. The patriarch of the Demon Alligator clan grinned ferociously. Then he led the members of the Demon Alligator clan and flew towards the depths of the swamp. The other forces also flew into the swamp. The swamp was very vast, so many people flew in, but it was not crowded at all. Lu Ming and Ling Yue also fell behind and flew into the swamp. In the swamp, the wind was calm and there was no wind at all. Below, the blood-red liquid was constantly emitting the smell of blood. It was very unpleasant, but in the next moment, a burst of fragrance floated into the noses of Lu Ming and Ling Yue. It's the 10,000 blood fruit. Suddenly, someone exclaimed. Lu Ming also saw a fruit tree growing in the middle of the swamp. The fruit tree was not tall, only as tall as an ordinary person. On the fruit tree, there were 7 blood-red fruits hanging. The intoxicating fragrance was emitted by these fruits. It's actually the 10,000 blood fruit. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly widened. The 10,000 blood fruit was a very precious divine medicine. Legend had it that it was condensed from the blood of thousands of creatures. It contained a majestic life essence. If a cultivator swallowed it, they could quickly refine their divine power and increase their cultivation. The 7 fruits were priceless. Many people's eyes flashed with a fiery light. It's mine. Immediately, someone moved and pounced at the 10,000 blood fruit at an astonishing speed. Get lost. Kill. The others reacted and pounced on the 10,000 blood fruit one after another, launching an intense battle. In the next moment, there were screams. Someone was killed, and blood flowed into the swamp. Dozens of experts surrounded the 10,000 blood fruit and launched an intense battle. Not long after, 7 or 8 people fell here. Their bodies fell into the swamp and were swallowed by the swamp. Boom! Suddenly, an aura as thick as the starry sky came crushing down. A giant palm covered in scales appeared and pressed down. Several experts did not even have time to scream before their bodies exploded. Book Guest House reading website. Chapter 3872. A hand covered with scales killed a few strong cultivators. One of them was a cultivator of the 5th Godly Emperor layer. The others were shocked and retreated. A tall and sturdy silhouette appeared above the 10,000 blood fruit tree. Many people's pupils shrank and they were shocked. The patriarch of the Demon Alligator clan. That tall and sturdy silhouette was the patriarch of the Demon Alligator clan. Get lost if you don't want to die, shouted the patriarch of the Demon Alligator clan. The other people's faces were extremely ugly, and their eyes were filled with ferocity. However, although these people were all ferocious, none of them dared to talk back. The patriarch of the Demon Alligator clan was one of the overlords of the chaotic Demon Star field. Nobody dared to talk back to him unless they were at the same level as him. Although they didn't want to give up the 10,000 blood fruit, they could only retreat. Lu Ming and Ling Yue didn't want to fight either. Although the 10,000 blood fruit was of great use to Lu Ming as it contained a majestic life essence that could be absorbed by Lu Ming, converted into potential and stored. However, Facing the patriarch of the demon alligator clan was too dangerous. His strength was definitely not weaker than the bearded man of the Blood Skull pirate group. Unless the two of them used all of their trump cards, they wouldn't be able to defeat him. However, if they used their trump cards in front of so many people, they would be targeted by others, even if they could defeat the patriarch of the demon alligator clan. It wasn't worth it for a few 10,000 blood fruits. The two of them took a detour. Boom! Kill! At that moment, a great battle broke out in other directions. Groups of people were fighting fiercely, and some of them died from time to time. Divine herbs also appeared in other directions. They were all very precious divine herbs. Many people were excited. They had only just entered the swamp, and they had already discovered precious divine medicines. Just how precious was the treasure that was emitting resplendent light in the center of the swamp. Some people directly abandoned the divine medicine here and sped up, flying towards the depths of the swamp. "The treasure is mine. Those who block me will die," said the patriarch of the demon alligator clan. He roared and turned into a huge crocodile. He was 10,000 meters long, and his body was pitch black. With a sweep of his tail, dozens of experts were hit, and their bodies exploded. Roar, roar, roar. The other experts of the demon alligator race also transformed into their true forms and followed the demon alligator race patriarch into the depths of the swamp. "People of the demon punishment sect, come with me." The devil punishment sect master roared and led the experts of the devil punishment sect into the depths of the swamp. "Go." The other top forces of the chaotic devil starfield also brought their experts and rushed into the depths of the swamp. The strongest of the chaotic devil starfield rushed into the depths of the swamp. However, there was still a group of people who did not rush in rashly. If those big shots went in, they wouldn't be able to compete with them. They might as well get some benefits here, which would be more practical. Lu Ming and Ling Yue also did not rush in. Even if there were extremely precious treasures in the depths of the swamp, with so many people rushing in, there would definitely be a fierce battle. It was not wise for them to rush in now. It would be more comfortable to obtain some divine herbs outside. There is also a 10,000 blood fruit there. Suddenly, Lu Ming saw another 10,000 blood fruit a few tens of thousands of meters to the left. There were 9 bright red fruits hanging on that 10,000 blood fruit, emitting an alluring luster. Swish! Lu Ming took a step forward and rushed in that direction. A trifling quasi-emperor wants to get a share of the 10,000 blood fruit? You're courting death. A tyrannical roar sounded. Then a pitch-black demonic axe slashed towards Lu Ming from the side. The demonic chi was vast and mighty, oppressive. It was a cultivator of the second godly emperor layer. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He suddenly turned around and punched. In this punch, he used the great fragmentation art. Dang! Lu Ming's fist landed on the pitch-black demonic axe, and there was a terrifying roar. Waves of energy spread out in all directions. At that moment, Lu Ming saw that the one who had attacked him was a strong man with a horn on his head. At that moment, the strong man's eyes were filled with shock and fear. Kacha! The demonic axe in the strong man's hand emitted cracking sounds. Numerous cracks appeared on it, and in the end, the demonic axe broke into pieces. Not only that, but the large man's body was also filled with cracks. It was as if his entire body was made of porcelain. Boom! In the end, the strong man's body exploded and turned into pieces. The great shattering technique had broken his body into pieces. A cultivator of the second godly emperor layer had been instantly killed by Lu Ming. He hadn't been able to fight back at all. Is this my current strength? Lu Ming's eyes were twinkling. He was very satisfied with his strength. A moment before, he hadn't even used the battle formula. He had only used the forbidden strength and the great shattering technique. That little boy! The pupils of many people in the surroundings shrank when they saw this scene. They felt a little scared. A quasi-emperor had surprisingly killed a cultivator of the second godly emperor layer. That was terrifying. Was he a peerless genius from a powerful clan? Who cares if he's a peerless genius? Kill him, and we'll get his treasures. That little boy is mine. Those people were all extremely evil. Even though they were scared at the beginning, they were immediately filled with greed. In the chaotic Demon Star area, there were many geniuses who went there to gain experience. It wasn't like they hadn't killed those geniuses before. Besides, those geniuses usually had many treasures. Killing one of them was a huge profit. Therefore, after a few breaths, 7 or 8 people threw themselves at Lu Ming. Among those people, there were cultivators of the 3rd and 4th godly emperor layers. Those who had the strength of the 5th godly emperor layer and above had all gone into the depths of the swamp. 7 to 8 experts and 7 to 8 attacks shrouded Lu Ming in an instant. With so many strong cultivators joining hands, even a cultivator of the 4th godly emperor layer would be in danger, let alone a quasi-emperor. Good. Lu Ming felt invigorated from head to toe. He immediately activated the battle formula to increase his combat strength by 5 times, raising his combat strength to the peak. BZZZ, BZZZ, BZZZ. 3 gravity pearls flew out at the same time. A powerful gravitational force surrounded the 7 or 8 strong cultivators. At the same time, Lu Ming used the Great Shattering Technique and the Great Godly Wind Technique. He punched out continuously. His punches contained the strength of the Great Godly Wind Technique and the strength of the Great Shattering Technique. His punches turned into rolling waves of energy and collided with the attacks of the 7 or 8 strong cultivators. Those cultivators of the 3rd godly emperor layer couldn't withstand a single attack from Lu Ming's punches. His punches continued bombarding those people. Those people didn't even have time to scream before they were killed. Chapter 3873. 5 cultivators of the 3rd godly emperor layer were instantly killed by Lu Ming's punch. The 3 cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer coughed up blood and were blown away. They couldn't believe their eyes. It was too terrifying, too terrifying. Lu Ming could instantly kill cultivators of the 2nd godly emperor layer. He could even instantly kill cultivators of the 3rd godly emperor layer. How was that possible? How could there be such a strong cultivator in the world? Unfortunately, cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer are still very difficult to kill, thought Lu Ming, sighing. Even though he could instantly kill cultivators of the 3rd godly emperor layer, fighting against cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer wasn't easy. The difference between each godly emperor layer was huge. The difference between each godly emperor layer was even bigger. It was extremely difficult to cross a godly emperor layer. With the strength of the quasi-emperor layer, he could instantly kill cultivators of the 3rd godly emperor layer. That was a miracle among miracles. In the entire ancient desolate universe, only a handful of people could do that. In the vast universe, that was already the peak. Die, thought Lu Ming, sighing. He didn't stop attacking. He continued moving towards the 3 cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer. Sky breaking sword, cloud flipping blade, cloud soaring claw, shouted the 3 cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer furiously. They used their strongest attacks to fight against Lu Ming. Boom, boom, boom. Both sides fought intensely. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged a dozen attacks. The 3 cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer were completely suppressed by Lu Ming and kept retreating. Oh my God! Not far away, Ling Yue's mouth was agape. Her eyes were filled with astonishment. She was strong enough, but when she was a quasi-emperor layer, she could only kill cultivators of the 2nd godly emperor layer, and it wouldn't be that easy. But Lu Ming could instantly kill cultivators of the 3rd godly emperor layer and suppress 3 cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer. He was much stronger than her. They were both incredible geniuses. Why was the difference between them so great? The other people of the chaotic Demon Star region were even more astonished. They thought they were dreaming. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming and the 3 cultivators had exchanged a dozen attacks. Boom! At that moment, Lu Ming used his battle formula to increase his fighting strength by 6 times. One of the cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer wasn't able to block him. Lu Ming punched him in the stomach, and his lower body exploded. A dazzling star appeared in his dantian. It was wrapped in his divine light and flew into the distance. The other 2 cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer were astonished. They ran away as fast as they could and disappeared. The 3 cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer ran away. Lu Ming didn't give chase. He stopped and carefully sensed his own battle prowess. After this battle, he had a rough idea of his own combat strength. He could suppress ordinary cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer. If he caught them off guard, he could even kill them. But against cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer, he couldn't compete with them. The difference between each level was huge. It was impossible for him to fight against cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer. The difference between them was too great. Even if he practiced a few more ancient secret skills, or if he had broken through to the Great Godly Wind technique or the Great Shattering technique, he wouldn't have been able to become that strong. If he wanted to fight against cultivators of the 5th Godly Emperor layer, he would have to wait until he broke through to the Godly Emperor layer. "This guy!" whispered Ling Yue in the distance. Lu Ming's fighting strength was astonishing. Even though she had broken through to the Godly Emperor layer, she wasn't 100% sure that she could suppress Lu Ming. At most, she would be a little bit stronger. But she had already broken through to the Godly Emperor layer, and Lu Ming was still at the Quasi-Emperor layer. This time, no one dared to deal with Lu Ming anymore. Lu Ming easily kept the 9 myriad blood fruits in his bag. Lu Ming was delighted. Now he wanted to break through to the Godly Emperor layer and become a Quasi-Emperor layer. Therefore, the more resources he had, the better. After keeping the 9 myriad blood fruits, Lu Ming continued to head in another direction. Ling Yue temporarily separated from him to collect resources. In any case, almost all the cultivators of the 5th Godly Emperor layer had rushed into the depths of the swamp. In the outer area, the 2 of them were strong enough to move unhindered. In addition, they all had their own trump cards. Even if they met someone stronger, they wouldn't be afraid. In this way, Lu Ming continued to collect. A few hours later, he had collected dozens of 10,000 blood fruits. Although dozens of blood fruits couldn't help him break through to the Godly Emperor layer, it was still a considerable amount of resources. Rumble. At this moment, a violent rumble came from the depths of the swamp. The blood-colored light disappeared without a trace. The violent rumble became louder and louder. Suddenly, miserable screams came from the depths of the swamp. One after another, they rose and fell. Outside the swamp, Lu Ming and the others stopped and looked into the depths of the swamp. They looked at each other in dismay, not knowing what had happened in the depths of the swamp. Ling Yue silently appeared beside Lu Ming. "What's going on?" Ling Yue frowned. She had a bad premonition. "I don't know either." Could it be that those people in the depths of the swamp are fighting over the treasures? "Let's wait and see," Lu Ming said. Lu Ming wasn't the only one who thought so. In fact, the others also thought so. They thought that those big shots who had entered the depths of the swamp had fought over the treasures. But not long after, everyone's expression changed. The ground shook more and more violently. Then the blood-colored liquid in the swamp suddenly boiled like the waves of the sea. Voila! Suddenly, the blood-colored liquid flew into the sky and formed layers of blood-colored water screens, blocking their way out. "What's going on?" "Not good, let's rush out first." "This place is strange." Many people's expressions changed drastically. They all rushed out, wanting to leave this place first. However, everyone was blocked by the blood-colored light screen. Damn it, break for me! Break! Many people roared and attacked. However, no matter if it was a cultivator of the third or fourth godly emperor layer, their attacks were useless. When their attacks landed on the blood-colored light screen, they were like stones sinking into the sea, disappearing without a trace. Let me try. Ling Yue drew her bow and shot out an arrow, striking the blood-colored light screen. However, it was useless. Like the others, it was blocked by the blood-colored light screen. This is troublesome. Ling Yue's expression became serious. Someone's coming out. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Swish, swish, swish!" Many people flew out from the depths of the swamp. There weren't many of them, only a few dozen. Everyone saw the patriarch of the demon alligator clan, the patriarch of the demon punishment sect, and other big shots of the chaotic devil starfield. The others were also cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer. As for those below the sixth godly emperor layer, none of them could be seen. Even the patriarch of the demon alligator clan and the others were injured. Their bodies were tattered and their chi was weak. They had obviously suffered heavy injuries. "Charge out! What are we still doing here? Let's rush out together!" roared the patriarch of the demon alligator clan. "We can't rush out. We're blocked," someone replied. Chapter 3874. Can't get out? Open. The leader of the demon alligator race roared. His tail was like a long spear as it pierced the blood-red light screen. However, it was still blocked and could not be broken. Damn it! The leader of the demon alligator race roared. His eyes revealed a panicked expression. What exactly happened? Where are the treasures? Someone shouted, "There are no treasures at all. We've been tricked. Quick, let's work together to break the blood-red light screen and get out." The leader of the demon punisher sect roared. His voice was filled with anxiety and panic. "We've been tricked?" Everyone was puzzled. "Who tricked us?" Rumble. At that moment, a violent rumble came from the depths of the swamp. It was as if thousands of waves were sweeping over. Then, everyone saw a blood-red wave rushing out from the depths of the swamp. It was as if a sea of blood was pressing down on them. Don't even think about running away from the blood-gathering array. Become my nutrients, ha-ha. A carefree laugh came from the blood-red wave. Xiao Wuji. Lu Ming and Ling Yue could not help but exclaim. That's right. The person who had come was Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji stepped on the blood-red wave. His long hair fluttered in the wind, making him look like an invincible blood demon. Ha ha ha, Mu Yun, Ling Yue, you're all here. Good, very good. Kill you and your life, spirit, origin, stone fragments will be mine. Xiao Wuji laughed. His laughter was even more wanton and carefree. Xiao Wuji, is this a trap? Lu Ming asked. That's right. Now that things have come to this, I might as well tell you that one of my ancestors was a big shot in the life spirit heavenly court. That's why I know a lot about the life spirit heavenly court, including the blood gathering array here. As long as you become nutrients for the blood gathering array, I can use the blood gathering array to evolve into the invincible blood Shura. I'll dominate the universe and be invincible among my peers. Xiao Wuji laughed. No one could escape from the blood Civ Grand formation. Thus, he took his time to reveal his secret. Everyone was shocked. It turned out that Xiao Wuji's ancestor was an important figure in the life spirit heavenly court. The life spirit heavenly court was a very special force. It was not created by a large clan, nor was it controlled by a large clan. People from the heavenly court came from all over the primitive universe. They were from different races. According to legend, there were even primitive gods inside. It was normal that Xiao Wuji's ancestor was an important figure in the life, spirit, heavenly court. Looks like the news about Bing Xian's life soul haul was also leaked out. The purpose is to attract even more people. Lu Ming stared at Xiao Wuji. You're very smart, Mu Yin. That's right. I'm the one who spread the news. The Great Azura Formation needs nourishment, and I need nourishment to evolve into a blood Azura. That's why you're attracting people from the All-Devil star field to become my nourishment. Xiao Wuji Dao. When the others heard this, their faces turned pale. As it turned out, Xiao Wuji was treating them as nutrients. He wanted to wipe them all out. This swamp was left behind by Xiao Wuji's ancestor. It was a great formation that was now completely under Xiao Wuji's control. As for the blood-colored light from before, it was all fake. It was just bait that Xiao Wuji had set up to attract them. They understood, but their hearts turned cold. Obviously, the hundreds of experts who had entered before had died and become nutrients for the Great Azura Formation. Everyone was fooled. Let's go, let's go. Let's go together. The Demon Alligator Clan Patriarch, Demon Punishment Sect Patriarch, and other big shots roared and attacked together. Dazzling divine light gathered together and blasted towards the light screen. The others did the same. They attacked the light screen together, but it was useless. The blood-red light screen only shook a few times, but nothing happened. Ling Yue's face turned pale. If the Demon Alligator Clan Patriarch and the others could not break it, then even if she took out the Elven Royal Bow, she would not be able to break it. Were they really going to stay here today? Don't waste your time. The Great Azura Formation is not something that can be broken by brute force. Go to hell. Xiao Wuji sneered and waved his hands. Waves of blood filled the sky. These waves of blood turned into blood-red tentacles and wrapped around the crowd. Suddenly, hundreds of people were wrapped around by the blood-red tentacles. Once they were wrapped around by the blood-red tentacles, their bodies started to corrode quickly, like ice melting. In the blink of an eye, these people disappeared without a trace. They had completely merged into the blood-red water and became nutrients for the Great Azura Formation. Many people trembled and felt a chill down their spines. It was too terrifying. Some of the tentacles wrapped around the Demon Alligator Clan Patriarch and the others. These big shots' faces changed drastically. They took out their divine weapons and self-destructed. Finally, they broke free from the blood-red tentacles. However, they had paid a huge price. A large piece of their flesh was corroded and their auras were much weaker. Everyone finally knew why the Demon Alligator Clan Patriarch and the others were so heavily injured. It was unknown whether it was intentional or not. But Xiao Wuji did not control the blood-red tentacles to deal with Lu Ming and Ling Yue. It seemed that he wanted to leave the two of them behind and deal with them later. The two of them leaned against each other and slowly retreated. What should we do? Ling Yue secretly sent a message to Lu Ming. Let's wait and see. Lu Ming said. If there was no other way, he could only rely on the purple copper coffin. It's this kid who is controlling the formation. Kill. As long as we kill him, the formation will break. Someone shouted. That's right. Let's kill him first. The others' eyes lit up. Suddenly, hundreds of experts from the chaotic devil starfield rushed towards Xiao Wuji. Don't rush over. The Demon Punisher Sect Patriarch shouted. However, it was too late. You're courting death. Xiao Wuji shouted coldly and pressed forward with one hand. Suddenly, the sea of blood behind him began to twist violently. Tentacles appeared one after another. There were at least a few hundred of them. Hundreds of tentacles danced in the air, and the hundreds of experts who had attacked him were all enveloped by the tentacles. Miserable screams rang out, and after a few breaths, the screams came to an abrupt end. These people had all died. Good, good. Ha ha ha. Xiao Wuji laughed. At this moment, Xiao Wuji's body was covered in a layer of blood-red light. His body was constantly wriggling, as if it was made entirely of blood. Xiao Wuji was undergoing a miraculous change. He was transforming into a blood Shura. The blood Shura was said to be the royal family of the Shura race. They were extremely terrifying and invincible. It was said that once a blood Shura appeared, it would be difficult to find an opponent of the same level. It was a legendary existence. The number of blood Shuras that were born in the Shura race could be counted on one hand. Once Xiao Wuji transformed into a blood Shura, his talent would rise to a terrifying level. He would not even care about the monsters of the top 10 races. Rumble. The blood-red waves rolled. After absorbing so many experts, the blood Shura array seemed to be even stronger. However, they were extremely rare and difficult to control. For example, the taboo power was one of them. Furthermore, it was the highest level power. In the instant they communicated, a few tentacles had already swept towards the two of them. Ling Yue was so scared that her face turned pale. On the other hand, Lu Ming's expression remained unchanged. He circulated his forbidden energy and covered his entire body. Then he suddenly punched out. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming's fist continuously collided with a few blood-colored tentacles. The few blood-colored tentacles were like tofu. They were defeated effortlessly by Lu Ming. It's really effective. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. At the moment of collision, Lu Ming could clearly feel that his taboo power had easily destroyed the power of the tentacles. Xiao Wuji's long and narrow eyes narrowed. Killing intent exploded. Looks like he still has some trump cards. Then, I'll take care of them later. Xiao Wuji muttered. He didn't think that Lu Ming had mastered a power that was higher than the power of the blood Azura. He only thought that Lu Ming had some kind of treasure on him that allowed him to destroy the tentacles. He planned to deal with the demon alligator race's patriarch and the others first. He wanted to raise the power of the blood Azura formation to its peak before dealing with Lu Ming and Ling Yue. Xiao Wuji immediately focused on the demon alligator race's patriarch and the others. The strong cultivators of the chaotic demon star area were dying one after another. At that moment, almost all the cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer and below had died. They had all turned into nutrients for the blood Azura formation. The blood in the sea of blood became brighter, more pungent and more powerful. Finally, a cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer couldn't endure it anymore. A few tentacles wrapped around him and his body melted, turning into nutrients for the blood Azura formation. The first cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer couldn't endure it anymore. Behind him, even more cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer couldn't endure it anymore. Roar! A huge demon crocodile was tightly entangled. The indestructible scales on its body were like ice meeting fire in the blood, melting unceasingly. "Father, save me! Hurry up and save me!" shouted the demon alligator of the 6th godly emperor layer. He was terrified. His gigantic body kept twisting. That demon alligator was the most outstanding son of the demon alligator race's patriarch. "You want to kill us? I'll die too," said the patriarch of the demon alligator race. His eyes were bloodshot. He knew he couldn't escape. He looked furious as he threw himself at Xiao Wuji. "Roar!" shouted the patriarch of the demon alligator race. His 4 claws were like dragon claws as he moved towards Xiao Wuji. His tail whipped the air and a terrifying strength moved towards Xiao Wuji. However, Xiao Wuji was smiling coldly. "You overestimate yourself. All right, I'll send you on your way. 1,000 arms blood Azura, melt everything," said Xiao Wuji, waving his hands and performing some hand seals. In a flash, the sea of blood started rolling and an endless amount of blood condensed into arms. Those arms looked like Azura's arms, but they were blood-red and covered with ferocious red scales. They moved towards the patriarch of the demon alligator race. There were arms everywhere. The patriarch of the demon alligator race's attack was blocked by the blood-red arms. Then those arms grabbed his body. As soon as these arms grabbed his body, they seeped into his body. "Roar!" shouted the patriarch of the demon alligator race in agony. His gigantic body kept twisting as he tried to break free. But this time, no matter how hard he struggled, it was useless. A terrifying strength penetrated into his body, and his chi was becoming weaker and weaker. The scales on his body, his flesh were melting away. At that moment, the demon alligator of the 6th godly emperor layer had already melted and turned into nutrients for the blood Azura spell. He wasn't the only one. Many other cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer couldn't resist and melted. Only a few cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer and a few stronger cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer were left. However, it would appear that their fates had already been decided. Despair filled their eyes. "Die. Kill him. Even if we die, we'll make him pay." In the end, the strong cultivators of the chaotic Demon Star area decided to join hands and attack Xiao Wuji. Chapter 3876. A dozen strong cultivators from the chaotic Demon Star area joined hands and attacked Xiao Wuji. At that moment, the leader of the Demon Crocodile clan couldn't hold on any longer. His body exploded and his flesh melted into the Shui Luo Great Formation. A cultivator of the 7th godly emperor layer had been absorbed by the Shui Luo Great Formation. The Shui Luo Great Formation's power increased tremendously. The red light on Limitless Xiu's body became even more intense. His body began to wriggle rapidly, and many fine blood-red scales suddenly appeared on his skin. He was quickly becoming a blood Azura. "Ha ha ha! Awesome! You can all die together!" Xiao Wuji raised his head to the sky and burst into laughter. His blood-red claws moved towards the remaining strong cultivators. "You want me to die? You won't have an easy time either." A relatively strong cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer shouted ferociously. His body swelled up, and then there was a loud explosion as he exploded. He had chosen to self-detonate. A cultivator of the 6th godly emperor layer had self-detonated. It was terrifying. It was like a star exploding. Destructive energies swept in all directions. Many blood-red claws exploded. "Let's go!" The remaining people seized the opportunity to attack Xiao Wuji. "Humph! Do you think you can deal with me by using such a suicidal method? How naive! Die!" smiled Xiao Wuji coldly. He raised his hands and more blood-red claws condensed. "Explode! Die together!" The remaining people kept self-detonating. The terrifying energies could destroy the sky and the earth. Unfortunately, in the Shui Luo Great Formation, the destructive energies weren't very useful. The blood-red claws blocked them. Furthermore, the remaining people were surrounded by countless arms before being captured, including a few cultivators of the 7th godly emperor layer. Those people couldn't even self-detonate. They melted one after the other. "Ha ha ha! You too, do you see that? Those who oppose me are all going to die. You too are peerless geniuses. Don't worry, I've absorbed your life essence. I won't waste it. In the future, I'll be invincible. In the future, I will dominate the universe and create a new heavenly court. Even the heavenly palace will be under my feet." Xiao Wuji laughed. His confidence had reached its peak, and he didn't even put the heavenly palace in his eyes. Ling Yuwei's face turned pale, but Lu Ming still had a calm expression on his face. He still had a trump card in his hand that he had yet to use. Naturally, he was not worried. His gaze was fixed on a few places. No one knew what he was thinking. The sect leader of the Devil Punisher sect couldn't take it, and his body melted. His essence became nutrients for the blood Azura Grand Formation, which was then absorbed by Xiao Wuji, helping him evolve into a blood Azura. Now, at this moment, Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. He pulled Ling Yue's small hand and rushed in a certain direction. Ling Yue had no idea what to do. She could only rely on Lu Ming. When Lu Ming pulled her hand, even though she blushed, she didn't resist. She let Lu Ming pull her in that direction. Lu Ming and Ling Yue were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they appeared a few hundred li away. Lu Ming stretched out his hand and grabbed a ring of holding. That ring of holding belonged to the leader of the Devil Alligator clan. The leader of the Devil Alligator clan was a cultivator of the 7th godly emperor layer. Even if that wasn't the case, the leader of the Devil Alligator clan had collected a lot of 10,000 blood fruits, which made Lu Ming very excited. The treasure was right in front of him. How could he miss it? When Xiao Wuji saw that Lu Ming was still thinking about the ring of holding, he was so angry that he laughed. How greedy! You don't know what death is. Xiao Wuji sneered. He wasn't in a hurry to take the ring of holding because there was no need to rush. After he killed everyone and turned into a blood Azura, he could take it slowly. He hadn't thought that Lu Ming would still be thinking about the ring of holding. Wasn't that ridiculous? Mu Yin, greed without strength is stupid. It seems like I overestimated you. Now I'll send you on your way. Xiao Wuji's disdainful and cold voice spread in the air. Then he waved his hand, and at least a dozen tentacles moved towards Lu Ming and Ling Yue. They were in the middle of the blood Azura Great Formation, so they couldn't avoid it. Let's go all out. Ling Yue gritted her teeth. She wanted to continue pulling the elven royal bow and fight to the death. No need. Lu Ming waved his hand and stood in front of Ling Yue. His entire body was covered with forbidden strength. Then he slashed his hand continuously. Pu in other people's eyes. The blood-red tentacles were terrifying. But in Lu Ming's hands, they couldn't even withstand a single blow. Lu Ming's palm slashed across, and the blood-red tentacles collapsed. Not a single one could get within 1,000 meters of Lu Ming. This time, not only was Ling Yue shocked, but Xiao Wuji also widened his eyes in shock. Then, Xiao Wuji's eyes were filled with killing intent. Let's see how many moves you can take from me. Melt for me. Xiao Wuji shouted. His hands formed seals, and countless blood-red arms grabbed at Lu Ming. Each arm was like a small hill, emitting a pungent smell. They wanted to grab Lu Ming and melt him. However, Lu Ming's palms kept slashing out. The forbidden strength turned into dazzling saber light that swept across the sky. Those blood-red palms were cut in half by the saber light. Impossible! How is this possible? What kind of power is this? How can it break through my blood Azura Great Formation? This time, Xiao Wuji couldn't stay calm anymore. He roared in disbelief. Lu Ming couldn't be bothered with him. He brought Ling Yue with him. His figure flickered, and a few more storage rings fell into his hands. They were all the storage rings of the top bosses. Blood waves overflow. Die for me! Xiao Wuji seemed to have gone crazy. His aura was boiling, and an endless amount of blood swept towards Lu Ming like a sea of blood. Let's go! This time, Lu Ming was still fighting. He pulled Ling Yue and rushed outside. After all, they were in the blood Azura Great Formation. Although his forbidden strength was of a higher level than the blood Azura Great Formation, his cultivation was limited. His forbidden strength was also limited. If he continued to use it, it would be disadvantageous for him. Now that he had gotten the benefits, it was time to retreat. There was no need to waste time with Xiao Wuji. Soon, Lu Ming and Ling Yue rushed to the blood-red light screen. Lu Ming's palm was like a saber slashing down. The previously unshakable blood-red light screen was forcefully cut open by Lu Ming. The blood-red light screen was formed by the blood Azura Great Formation. Ordinary divine power couldn't break it, but it couldn't stop the forbidden strength Chapter 3877. After cutting open a crack in the blood-colored light screen, Lu Ming and Ling Yue rushed out of the crack. Damn it, die for me! Xiao Wuji roared crazily. He controlled the sea of blood and chased after Lu Ming and Ling Yue. However, Lu Ming and Ling Yue were already out of the range of the blood Azura Great Formation. Xiao Wuji couldn't catch up at all. With a few flashes, they disappeared into the horizon, leaving behind a furious Xiao Wuji. He had miscalculated. He didn't expect Lu Ming and Ling Yue to escape. This way, he wouldn't be able to return to the Azura race. His ancestors were from the Life Spirit Heavenly Court. He could use the Blood Azura Great Formation in the Life Spirit Hall to cultivate. This meant that he was also a remnant of the Life Spirit Heavenly Court. If word of this got out, the Heavenly Palace wouldn't let him go. Before this, he was completely confident that he could keep everyone here. Therefore, he didn't hesitate to reveal all his secrets. Now he regretted it to death. If he had known that Lu Ming was so strange, he wouldn't have revealed all his secrets. Mu Yun, Ling Yue, when I completely transform into a Blood Azura, it will be the time of your death. I hope you won't be in a hurry to leave the Life Spirit Hall. Xiao Wuji gritted his teeth, his face ferocious. Not only did he want to kill Lu Ming and Ling Yue to silence them, but he also wanted to obtain their Life Spirit Origin Stone fragments. This was very important to his future plans. Then he retreated into the depths of the Blood Azura Great Formation and started to cultivate. With the help of the Blood Azura Great Formation, he evolved in the direction of a Blood Azura. As for Lu Ming and Ling Yue, they left the swamp and kept flying. After flying for a long time, the two of them finally stopped. Mu Yin, this time, thank you. Ling Yue's face was still a little red as she thanked Lu Ming. You helped me once before, so I saved you once. It's only right. Lu Ming smiled. I didn't expect Xiao Wuji's ancestor to be an important figure in the Life Spirit Heavenly Court. It seems that you deliberately cooperated with us to use us to help him cultivate into a Blood Shura and obtain the treasures of the Life Spirit Heavenly Court. Ling Yue said coldly, her expression somewhat ugly. This time it was really a little dangerous. He did not know what method Lu Ming used to actually be able to break through the power of the Blood Azura. Ling Yue curiously sized up Lu Ming. Could it be that Lu Ming had mastered a power of a higher level than the power of Blood Azura? Ling Yue's mind was filled with thoughts. Lu Ming naturally wouldn't explain further. After that, the two of them found a remote place to rest. Although Ling Yue had broken through to the Divine Emperor realm, using the Elven King Bao with blood continuously consumed a lot of energy. She needed to recover well. Lu Ming didn't need to rest. Instead, he took out a few storage rings and cleaned them up. These storage rings belonged to big shots like the Demon Alligator Race Patriarch and the Devil Punishment Sect Master. The collection inside was indeed very rich. There were all kinds of divine weapons, divine pills, and materials. There were a lot of them, and the number of divine crystals was even more enormous. Lu Ming collected all of these divine crystals together. He planned to find an opportunity to buy a batch of treasures that contained pure energy. Originally, Lu Ming wanted to see if there were any secret techniques that could be used. However, he discovered that there were no ordinary secret techniques in the storage rings of these people. The energy of these big shots was all focused on their origin secret techniques. Ordinary secret techniques could only be cultivated in a few auxiliary types. It was normal for them to not have any ordinary secret techniques on them. What Lu Ming liked the most was the myriad blood fruit. In a few storage rings, he found a few hundred myriad blood fruits. These were the treasures that were of great use to Lu Ming. All of them were stored in a storage ring. After Lu Ming had cleaned up everything, Ling Yue had almost recovered. Where are we going next? Should we leave, or should we continue investigating? Lu Ming asked Ling Yue. I want to continue investigating. Ling Yue said, the Bingxian Life Soul Palace is extremely strange. How could all the people here turn into dried corpses? What kind of secret does this contain? Moreover, there doesn't seem to have been a great battle in the Bingxian Life Soul Palace. There are no traces of a great battle anywhere. This means that this place was not invaded by the Heavenly Palace in the past. It is very likely that there are still a large number of treasures left behind here, especially the 18 Hall suppressing divine weapons. As she finished speaking, Ling Yue's eyes lit up. 18 Hall suppressing divine weapons. Lu Ming revealed a puzzled expression. That's right. I've checked the information on the 18 Hall suppressing divine weapons. Legend has it that other than the 4 great treasures, there are also 18 Hall suppressing divine weapons. Every Life Soul Palace has 2 divine weapons, and they are all extremely terrifying treasures. They are the top divine weapons of the universe, and their power is boundless. Ling Yue said. Hearing this, Lu Ming's eyes also emitted a dazzling light. There was no need for any other description. Just by hearing the words top divine weapon of the universe, one could tell how extraordinary it was. As for the Bingxian Life Soul Palace, there were no traces of it being invaded. Were the 18 Hall suppressing divine weapons still here? Lu Ming immediately nodded. He had to continue investigating. The 2 of them left this place and calculated the direction. Then they headed towards the depths of the Bingxian Life Soul Palace. Following that, the 2 of them discovered several ruins. Some of these ruins had collapsed, but they weren't caused by a great battle. Instead, they had collapsed naturally over the years. Inside these buildings, they still found some dried corpses. They even found a large number of desolate beast corpses in the wild. Even the desolate beasts in the wild had their essence, energy, and spirit sucked dry. It was as if in the distant past, all the living beings in the entire world of the Bingxian Life Soul Palace had suddenly been sucked dry of their essence, energy, and spirit. Just thinking about it made one feel terrified. Furthermore, due to the passage of time, ordinary treasures had lost their spirituality. The 2 of them didn't gain much. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them had already wandered around the Bingxian Life Soul Palace for 7 days. On this day, as the 2 of them were flying, their expressions suddenly changed. This was because they could feel that the Life Soul Origin Stone in their bodies was slightly beating. What's going on? My Life Soul Origin Stone fragment is constantly beating. Ling Yue was surprised. With a thought, the Life Spirit Origin Stone fragment appeared and trembled slightly. On top of it, it emitted a strange light. My Life Soul Origin Stone fragment is the same. Lu Ming took out his Life Soul Origin Stone fragment and discovered that his Life Soul Origin Stone fragment was also like this. It trembled slightly and was enveloped by a layer of light. Suddenly, the stone spirit of Lu Ming's Life Soul Origin Stone fragment appeared. It looked in a certain direction and revealed a longing expression. In that direction, there is something I desire. The Life Soul Origin Stone spirit said, its old eyes emitting a dazzling light. As it spoke, it didn't forget to fiercely sweep its gaze across the Life Soul Origin Stone fragment in Ling Yue's hand, flickering with greed. As for Ling Yue's Life Soul Origin Stone fragment, a stone spirit also appeared. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.